Part 18. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 171. Ling Yi's hearing was eerily sharp. Maybe Ling Yi didn't notice it herself, but Yilin noticed something unnatural through comparison. Maybe this is an ability. Talent. Yilin helped Ling Yi simply pack her luggage. Ling Yi sat aside, listening to the rustling sounds, and seemed to be able to feel Yilin's every move through the subtle sounds. Although neither of them spoke, neither Ling Yi nor Yilin found the atmosphere awkward. On the contrary, it makes people feel like, that's how it should be. All right. After finishing packing, Yilin easily lifted the seemingly heavy box, naturally supported Ling Yi, and slowly stepped out of the gate of the welfare home in the eyes of the elderly people who happily blessed her. Of course, before leaving, Yilin did not forget to tell the dean not to mention his and Ling Yi's names again. He was not sure whether he would make other enemies in the real world in the future. To be on the safe side, it would be better to completely erase all traces of his and Ling Yi's existence in this orphanage. Yilin cannot let these lonely old people lose their most precious daily life. Before all that came. Even the slightly dazzling sunlight in front of her eyes made Yilin feel precious. Ling Yi gently tugged on Yilin's sleeve. She has not left the orphanage for a long time. The sounds outside, everything in the outside world, even the slightest smell, made Ling Yi feel extremely novel. It's like stepping into another world. Correct. Yilin suddenly remembered something. He decided it would be safer to ask. Yi, do you still remember, when did you find that your hearing had improved? About 2 months ago. 2 months ago? Yilin was slightly startled. Do you still remember which day it was? Who would remember? Ling Yi rolled her eyes at Yilin, seeming to be thinking about Yilin's expression at the moment, and said with a smile, I don't have as good a memory as you. Yilin narrowed her eyes slightly. Is it a coincidence? He killed Henry Zhang and forcibly took away Henry Zhang's apostle qualification. He has been an apostle for about 2 months. Next, the whole journey was speechless. Although Ling Yi seemed very calm, when she arrived inside the crowded underground network, Ling Yi obviously exerted a little more force on Yilin's sleeves. It seems that while being nervous, there is also a bit of excitement about being exposed to a new world. Shortly after, Yilin re-entered the capital. The difference from before was that this time there was Ling Yi around. Soon, Yilin is connected to the capital's network. He suddenly felt a little headache. Now it seems that this means that Ling Yi will also meet Mo Mengmeng in advance. Anyway, sooner or later we have to get to know each other. Anyway, Ling Yi's trajectory has changed. Later, earlier, it shouldn't be a big problem, right? Since Mo Mengmeng can get along well with Ling Yi in the future, if they get to know each other a little earlier, it should, maybe, or, it won't be a big problem. Yilin breathed a sigh of relief when he thought about this. Doo-doo. Molly, huh? Yilin, ahem, there is one thing. Molly. Half an hour later. Molly's lab. To be precise, it is a laboratory named KAMMXW. Stare. Yilin. Ling Yi. Stare. Yilin took a sip of coffee and looked calm. Ling Yi just smiled slightly. The reaction of the two people actually made Molly a little unnatural. She finally couldn't help but break the silence. Your friend. Yilin took another sip of coffee, and it felt a bit hot to her mouth. Well, just friends. Ling Yi chuckled, well, they are just ordinary friends. Molly breathed a sigh of relief. Then look more carefully, Ling Yi's tight clothes. Etc. Molly suddenly remembered what Yilin had said before. Could it be? Molly couldn't help but take a second look, and was inadvertently stunned. Even the patterns on the clothes have been squeezed out of shape. How could it be so unscientific? How old are you? Because Molly was wearing cooler clothes, when she lowered her head, she could actually see her delicate belly button. Ah! Molly grabbed her messy hair, feeling inexplicably unhappy. Seeing that Molly was having a convulsion and her expression was rich, Yilin couldn't help but ask a question mark slowly. Anyway. Molly calmed down instantly. At the very least, his expression calmed down. The eyes you are talking about, I'm sorry, that's her, right, although Molly didn't have a high emotional intelligence, but after she said the words, she suddenly realized that it seemed a little bad to talk about her eyes in front of Ling Yi. It doesn't matter. In fact, it doesn't matter. My name is Ling Yi. Nice to meet you. Ling Yi stretched out her hand forward. Molly pouted slightly, but still stretched out her hand to shake Ling Yi's hand. After handing Ling Yi to Molly, Molly took Ling Yi for examination. Although Molly's laboratory does not specialize in the medical field, Amorendi used funds to equip Molly with a lot of high-tech scanning equipment just in case. It's not expensive anyway. Yilin felt that Molly's reaction was a bit strange, so she acted like a master and drove Yilin away, saying that certain places were forbidden to non-professionals. But seeing that Molly was very friendly towards Ling Yi, Yilin was not worried and could wait for the results of Molly's examination with peace of mind. By the way, Molly also invited several familiar medical experts to diagnose the cause of Ling Yi's optic atrophy. Among them were Yilin's acquaintances. Actually not too familiar. Dr. Han Bingbing was in the same team as Yilin during the recent trip to No Man's Land. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but one of Han Bingbing's doctorate degrees is in neurobiology, which has a lot to do with Ling Yi's current situation. Yilin felt even more relieved when she saw Han Bingbing. What's more, the next trial in the inner world is coming soon, and Yilin has other plans. Elsewhere in the laboratory, a group of experts were still discussing Ling Yi's condition. Yilin didn't understand either, so she was busy with her own business while waiting for the results of the experts' discussion. Although, Yilin doesn't have high hopes. But Yilin doesn't mind doing this risk-free attempt a few more times. What if, what good butterfly effect will be produced? There is always hope. At this moment, Yilin is alone. Hide in a completely sealed room. This was originally used to create some dangerous secret rooms. Although this room is equipped with high-definition surveillance equipment, Yilin has told Molly in advance that Molly has also directly cancelled other people's permission to monitor the secret room. Only Molly can know everything that happens in the secret room. Of course, Molly didn't have time to peep now. After all, she is still busy over there. It won't be solved for a while. Yilin was seen sitting cross-legged on the ground. Close your eyes. I kept thinking about everything I experienced in the dual space. The battle with Zhang Huishan almost exhausted Yilin's trump cards. In the end, Yilin even used the life-saving props obtained from the little fat man. No, they were exchanged for fair transactions and were photographed into the body, but they were not used in the end. After killing Zhang Huishan, what did not surprise Yilin was that in addition to the usual death points and chaos points, Yilin gained. He also received another chaos value benefit from killing sea-level undead. A full 3,200 points of chaos value. Yilin didn't understand the hierarchy of the undead. In fact, even in the future timeline, no one knows everything about the undead. Where do the undead come from? Where to go? Why stand against the apostles? And this time, why do the undead that can only appear in the other world appear in the real world, and still in the form of resurrected corpses? And why, that undead turned out to be Zhao Yulong? Yilin has been thinking about all the mysteries for a long time, but can't come up with an answer. What kind of existence is there in that place where the undead are? Zhao Yulong is obviously still alive, but why does another undead Zhao Yulong appear? Something similar to the Zhao Yulong clone? Because there are too many doubts. So Yilin decided to hide this matter completely. Forget it, I can't come up with an answer no matter how much I think about it. Yilin sighed softly and opened the apostle panel to check the current attributes. This is also a habit Yilin has developed. Before entering the next world, he should sort out his current abilities. Yilin, ID, 1010. Title Riddle Gentleman. Health 100%. Psychic energy value 690. Module Apocalypse Knight, damaged. Level LV 12, second level Apostle. Strength 3.1. Agility 4.4. Spirit 6.9. Will 7.4. Lucky 3.3. Charm 2.2. Skills follow you like a shadow, max, plagued by disaster, 3 stars, bloodthirsty disaster, 2 stars, unstable explosives, a level, run fast, D level. Enhancement killing skills, A level, Dionysus factor, disabled, A level. Yilin stared at the newly acquired skill. The new skill found in the Zhonghuishan box. When Yilin took out an A-level skill, she couldn't help but stand still for a few seconds. Because as his luck value continued to decline, he almost forgot when was the last time he got a skill from the relic box. It seems a bit long. But that's not important. The important thing is that it seems that my luck has started to improve again. Yilin happily observed the properties of unstable explosives again. Unstable explosives. Grade A grade. Consumption 200 spiritual energy points. Effect objects with a maximum mass of no more than 10 kilograms can be converted into unstable explosives. Unstable explosives have different powers depending on the blasting method, the mass of the explosives, and the blasting time. Explanation: you know, explosion is the real art, but if you are not careful, you may die for art. Note: the transformed unstable explosives cannot enter the storage space, otherwise you will be responsible for the consequences. At that time, Yilin was only in charge in a hurry. Because the attribute description seemed a bit complicated, Yilin didn't think about it carefully. Now calm down and take a look. The results show that there is not much difference between having and not having it. It really deserves to be an A-level output skill. Yilin complained at first, and then couldn't help laughing. If it is upgraded to a module skill. Thinking of this, Yilin immediately entered the module space without saying a word. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 172. In the spiritual space. Yilin routinely floats in the dark void. Yilin was also accustomed to the state of being as if she had left her physical body and only her spirit remained. He didn't waste time and directly pulled the vast module in front of him. Zoom. Shrunk into a mini-state. Yilin thought. All the small balls that could be stuffed into the module were like light bulbs, flickering and floating around Yilin. Bat bike, unstable explosives. Currently, in the module, there are 2 lit skill trees. Among them, there is only one skill called Following Like a Shadow that has accompanied Yilin all the way. The second skill tree is Disaster-Ridden and Bloodthirsty Disaster. The third one, the first one, flickers on and off like a breathing lamp, as if waiting for Yilin to fill the broken ball with something. This is a space reserved for motorcycles, so ignore it for now. In the Hating City Zhonghuishan incident, although Yilin easily harvested a lot of heads, and obtained 20,000 death points in the settlement of the final real-life mission, the death point harvest was huge, but the chaos value was hard to describe. If it were replaced at the beginning, this chaos value might be a huge sum of money, but now as the modules become more abundant, the required chaos value has also increased, and the chaos value obtained in Hating City is just a drizzle. The current chaos value is more than 34,000. Yilin murmured. It's definitely not enough to put a motorcycle in there. Yilin casually grabbed a ball of light. Unstable explosives. As soon as Yilin grabbed the light ball, under the matching mechanism of the module, the corresponding skill ball was already flashing slightly, ready to move. What's the next skill point in Blood Scourge? Yilin was a little surprised. In this skill tree, after upgrading, the skill name will inexplicably change to Disaster System, which makes Yilin always feel unlucky. But you won't get pregnant even if you try. Yilin tried to use unstable explosives to light up the third skill point of the Disaster System skill tree. This operation requires 20,000 chaos points. Yes/no? Yilin stared at the two buttons in front of her. I pondered for a long time. In this space, the concept of time is blurred. Yilin couldn't tell how long she had been thinking about it. It seemed like just a moment, and it seemed like a long time passed. Yilin slowly pressed no. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. Sure enough, the consumption of chaos points will be more and more, then you can't just use skills to fill it up. Otherwise, in the end, it will be a bottomless pit that cannot be filled. Yilin sighed. Before order has completely collapsed, it is impossible to obtain a large amount of chaos value in a short period of time in the real world. Unless, Yilin goes out of her way to gain points. Just like the future Knights of the Apocalypse. Although this skill should have surprising changes after upgrading, if Yilin guessed correctly, while it is a surprise, it will definitely be accompanied by many restrictions. After A-level skills fill the vacancies in the module, Yilin is not sure whether it will have side effects like weakness like Bloodthirsty Catastrophe. If there is another trump card skill similar to Bloodthirsty Catastrophe that cannot be used until the last moment, it will not be of much help to the normal output mode. Moreover, compared to unstable explosives, Yilin currently wants to upgrade the Bat motorcycle. Forget it, I don't know what the next trial in the inner world will be like. It won't be too late to upgrade by then. As the consumption of chaos points becomes more and more stretched, Yilin can only become more and more cautious when upgrading her skills. Because, once upgraded, there is no way to go back. If it becomes another skill that is difficult to use, Yilin can only bear it all silently with tears in her eyes. Yilin quickly exited the module space. Just for a little while. Yilin's spiritual energy value has been consumed a small amount. It's no wonder that except for the spiritual apostles, the strength and agility sides are mainly based on melee combat, supplemented by skills. After all, the spiritual attribute is too low, and the upper limit of spiritual energy is too low, so it is impossible to squander spiritual energy like Yilin. Whether it is the consumption of various skills or possessed weapons, ordinary apostles other than the spiritual side really can't afford it. While Mo Mengmeng is still busy, Yilin quickly walked out of the secret room. Half an hour later, Yilin came back here with a lot of messy things. In Yilin's hands, there were cups, coins, spoons, in short, Yilin took some seemingly useless things from Molly's residence. Boom. Call. Boom. Pia. Researchers passing by found it very strange. This secret room had been given a death order by Molly not long ago. No one else except herself could enter. There is no permission to view relevant monitoring. This is a mysterious secret room. So mysterious. Indescribable. Indescribable. No peeking. Ahem. But there are still many researchers who hear strange sounds coming from this mysterious small room from time to time every time they pass by. Sometimes it sounds like an explosion, sometimes it sounds like the human body emitting some kind of waste gas, sometimes it sounds like it is beating something, in short, a room that should not allow anyone to enter, but there are all kinds of weird sounds. This is enough to pique anyone's curiosity. What's more, researchers are inherently curious creatures. Wow, my heart feels a little itchy. But no matter who is working here and getting paid, everyone knows Molly's temper, and the temper of her legendary grandfather. Therefore, no one allowed sensibility to defeat reason, so they could only suppress their strong curiosity and pass by this mysterious room. Sudden. A man opened the door and walked out with an expressionless face. A group of experts including Han Bingbing were having a heated discussion in the room. Ling Yiyi was sitting outside the examination room with a quiet expression. Suddenly, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly without any trace, and no one noticed. Molly was next to Ling Yiyi, squinting her eyes, carefully identifying the DNA fragments extracted from Ling Yiyi, and analyzing whether there were congenital defects in the DNA that could cause optic nerve atrophy. Analysis and comparison is not an overly complicated task, as long as it is compared with the normal DNA sequence to find obviously abnormal fragments. Of course, the genetic information contained in each person's DNA is completely different, so multiple cross-comparisons are needed. Ling Yiyi just smiled slightly, like a peaceful elf, not disturbing anyone. She is aware and grateful because she knows these people are working hard to get her light back. How's the progress? Molly didn't even raise her head and said casually, it's hard to say. Sister Bingbing and the others haven't discussed the results yet, so they may not be optimistic. The result of the automatic analysis by the instrument, there is no abnormality. Just in case, I personally compared it 3 times with the gene fragments of normal people. Who are you? Acridine. When did you get here? As Molly was talking, she suddenly realized something was wrong, turned her head sharply, and happened to face a dark face. You, why is your face so dark? Did you run out to dig coal? Black. Yilin didn't pay attention and subconsciously wiped his face. With this wipe, there was a layer of black ash on his palm. Ling Yiyi heard the conversation between the two and finally couldn't help it, and burst into laughter without any image. Laughed for a while. After Ling Yiyi's breathing became smoother, she said cheerfully, I'm really curious about what Lily said about Xiaolin's current appearance. Yilin turned her head. Suddenly I felt a little uncomfortable. Urine. Molly suddenly screamed again. Yilin turned around subconsciously. He was a little surprised. After all, Molly had rarely called his name so formally since she met him. Click. Then his face was blinded by the flash. Molly shook her phone, puffed out her small chest, and said with a proud face, hey, I'm keeping this photo. When Sister Yiyi can see, I will print out your ugly photo as soon as possible. It will be high definition and uncensored. Frame the bulletproof glass and hang it on the wall. He. Yilin. Ling Yiyi was actually looking forward to it. Yeah. Remember not to let him delete it secretly. Yilin immediately rushed to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. It was indeed a bit ugly. In the bathroom, after Yilin washed her face, she looked in the mirror and couldn't help laughing. It seems that Molly and Ling Yiyi get along well. It seems that no matter which timeline they are in, the fate between people seems to be destined and will not be easily broken. In this way, Yilin can focus on her own affairs with peace of mind. After washing her face, Yilin came out of the bathroom, her expression calm. No one could see through her poker face to see through Yilin's inner thoughts. Well, in fact, there is no need to do this to Molly. This girl's emotional intelligence is too low, it's just that Yilin is used to this. Didn't I tell you not to come over if nothing happened? Molly remembered and complained at this moment, didn't I tell you that we won't come to a conclusion so quickly for a while, and I will inform you as soon as we have a conclusion. Where are you hurrying up? Where can I sleep if it's cool? Yilin suddenly felt that these words were inexplicably familiar, as if she had said this to Molly somewhere before. Women are indeed petty. Yilin secretly added a stingy label to Molly. But Yilin naturally would not hesitate to speak out what was in his heart. He smiled and said his purpose. Coins. There are many more, Molly couldn't help but be startled when she heard this. What do you want that thing for? Don't you know that since electronic currency has become completely popular, this thing has almost become the dregs of history? What's more, soon they might even be sold as antiques. That means no. Yes, yes. Molly suddenly whispered, they probably cast a lot in the past, but I'm not sure whether they used the waste to recast it later. Yulin nodded, not surprised by Molly's answer. Well, I only need metal in this shape. If I don't have it, bead-shaped ones will do, preferably no more than 2 centimeters in diameter. The heavier, the better. Meng, help me find it. After saying that, Yulin said please to Molly unceremoniously and left the place in a hurry. Yazzie seems to be really busy. It wasn't until Yulin's figure completely disappeared from sight that Molly came back to her senses. That dead soul Dan. He actually ordered me to do work again. Ling Yi couldn't help laughing when she heard Molly's voice, and covered her mouth with a smile. After Yulin asked Molly to find the steel, she returned to the same place. Yulin's experiment with unstable explosives has initially yielded results. The next use of skills will have to wait until Molly finds the first batch of steel, so there is no rush. Next, Yulin looked at the apostle panel. The spiritual energy value has also recovered a lot. So Yulin took a deep breath. His expression instantly became extremely focused, with a bit of solemnity. Yulin slowly raised a finger. All attention is focused on the fingertips. In an instant, there seemed to be something invisible and colorless, spinning slightly on Yulin's fingertips, like a small whirlpool. A few days later, Yulin lived a very nourishing life. Molly's relationship with Ling Yi is strangely getting better and better, so much so that Yulin is a little surprised. Since it was fine, Yulin simply didn't bother to think about it. Let Miss Mo do whatever she wants. Finally, after several days of discussion and examination, they made a preliminary diagnosis of Ling Yi's condition. No diagnosis. That's right. After analysis by a group of experts, Ling Yi's condition was not a disease at all. Even the symptom of optic atrophy still needs to be verified. Yulin couldn't understand the specific situation. However, Han Bingbing later came to Yulin with a guilty look on her face, saying that there was nothing she could do. Her original words at the time were, "I'm really sorry. It may be limited to the current level of human science and technology. We still can't fully confirm the cause of Miss Ling's blindness. You may think it's ridiculous to say it. After I analyzed all the data, my brain the first reaction that appeared was, she was robbed of her light by God, haha. Ridiculous, right? Ridiculous. Not funny at all." Yulin couldn't laugh at all. God. If before the 4 towers appeared, perhaps Yulin would have been an absolute atheist. But just like that reminder that changed everything. Do you believe in God? Yes/no. It is precisely because some people believe that people like apostles exist. Another example is that Mo Rentu Tai chose no, and he has never been called again since then. Even if you kill an apostle with your own hands, you cannot become an apostle again. It's like, forsaken by God. But in fact, Yulin doesn't think that apostles are people chosen by God. Since there is a God, there is no sense of violation in what Han Bingbing said. Ling Yi is a poor person who has been robbed of her light and is no longer favored by it. Han Bingbing saw that Yulin was in a low mood at that time. Although she was helpless, she also proposed a treatment plan that might be useful. This treatment plan has also been approved by other experts. The worst case scenario, which is to maintain the status quo, won't do any harm. Using pulse waves that can simulate nerve impulses to stimulate Miss Ling's optic nerve, and then supplementing with some drugs to nourish the nerves and assist in nerve recovery, may be helpful to Miss Ling. Before Han Bingbing left, she half-jokingly and half-seriously left a hope for Yulin. Well, don't worry. I will check the relevant information when I go back to see if there are any rare cases similar to Miss Ling's in the past few years. If there is new news, I will notify you as soon as possible. Grateful. After all the medical experts left, Molly's lab seemed to be quiet again. After discussing with Molly, Yilin also agreed to Han Bingbing's treatment plan. However, there was no pulse therapy device in Molly's laboratory that could be safely used on the human body, so she had to wait for Han Bingbing to fly one over from her laboratory soon. Although Molly felt a little worried every time she saw Ling Yi's bulging clothes, she couldn't help this time. Molly's mood was all written on her face. Even when she quarreled with Yilin, she was listless, as if withered eggplant. As the next trial in the inner world approaches, Yilin can only leave it to Molly to deal with it for the time being. After all, Yilin has experienced another timeline and knows very well that this is not something that can be solved in a short time. Maybe it's not a disease that current humans can solve. But since it was a harmless treatment, Yilin could only try to see if it would work. After the end of the world, many precision instruments on the human side have been destroyed, and not many can be preserved intact. This may also be an opportunity for Ling Yi to regain his sight. Afterwards, Yilin did not hide anything from Ling Yi and told her the result in detail. Ling Yi is very optimistic. Now her hearing is sharp and she has long been accustomed to blindness, and her daily life is not affected much. 2 more days passed. Yilin is still working tirelessly to develop new skills. In the room, Yilin was sweating profusely. I saw him constantly stretching out his fingers, focusing and concentrating until all his spiritual energy was exhausted, then he collapsed, rested, recovered, an endless cycle. Yilin gradually found her state. This is just one of the certain abilities Yilin will master in the future. But since returning from the dual space, Yilin found that she still didn't have enough cards, so she decided to try in advance to reproduce that ability with lower mental attributes. At present, telekinesis is still a castrated version. When it actually reaches the first level of spiritual lock, many familiar operations cannot be performed. Very uncomfortable. But Yilin didn't complain. Being able to use the castrated version of telekinesis before the first layer of spiritual lock was completely broken was better than nothing. In fact, there was nothing to complain about. Compared with many spiritual apostles who can only rely on the skills given by the tower, Yilin's current situation is countless times better, taking advantage of the reborn ones. Who can't make a fool of himself? Was Goldfinger surprised? Isn't it normal for a reborn person to have some cards? Huh? You are really still here? Huh? What are you doing? Just when Yilin was squatting on the ground as if she was constipated, pointing her fingers up with a sad look on her face, Molly walked in. Seeing Yilin's posture and movements, Molly couldn't help being startled. Yilin raised her head, dissipated the telekinesis wrapped around her fingertips, picked up a clean towel around her neck and wiped her sweat, and asked casually, "What's wrong? Is the steel hammer back?" When Molly heard this, she immediately put her hands on her hips and raised her eyebrows slightly upward. Huh? You only remember your steel drill and think about it all day long. Don't you care about Sister Yi? She. Of. Yilin smiled and interrupted Molly, "Isn't it you? As long as you don't rush in irritably, it means that everything is fine in Yi. What should I worry about? Don't you have no regard for yourself? Confidence? Huh? There seems to be nothing wrong with this logic. How could I, Mo Meng Meng, not have confidence in myself?" In fact, after Han Bingbing delivered the treatment equipment, Ling Yi has started the first stage of pulse wave treatment under the observation of Molly, and the treatment intensity is not very strong. According to Han Bingbing's speculation, normally, if the pulse wave that simulates nerve conduction impulses takes effect, Ling Yi's dead optic nerve may be activated again. In short, at present, Everything is unknown. Wait. Who are you calling Frizzy? Only then did Molly react, her almond-shaped eyes widening. I said it. Yilin's face was expressionless. Oh, it's okay. Molly breathed a sigh of relief and was satisfied. Then she finally got to the point. By the way, I've ordered what you want, and I promise to give you a surprise. But by the way, what do you want this thing for? Made to order? Yilin was slightly startled when he heard this. Isn't it the steel we promised? Still need to order? Seeing Yilin's unexpected expression, Molly's expression became more and more serious, as if she was happy to see Yilin surprised by her. Hum hum. Clang, clang, clang. Molly figured out the sound effects for her debut, then took out her phone and started beeping frantically. Immediately afterwards, a tall, strange robot with two huge steel tongs held a silver metal box and slowly moved it towards the side. The metal box is square in shape, about half a meter in diameter, with sharp edges and corners. It didn't look like a very heavy box, but when the robot was unloading, it slammed in front of Yilin. Yilin seemed to feel the floor shaking slightly as the box landed. Yilin's expression changed. Molly couldn't hold back and continued to lie. After setting the program to return the robot to its original position, she entered a series of instructions into her mobile phone and the box slowly opened. When the box was opened, there were no blinding Lichanga-style special effects. In the box, to Yilin's surprise, there were all small round beads. Steel balls? So it's not steel? However, Yilin was afraid of trouble at first, but in terms of practicality, Yilin still felt that the shape of the steel ball would be more appropriate and more convenient. Without saying a word, Yilin directly picked up one. The moment he took the small steel ball, Yilin clearly felt that the weight of the steel ball was much heavier than he imagined. What material is this? In front of Molly, Yilin asked questions very cooperatively. And Molly seemed to really enjoy seeing Yilin's question-marked expression, and said with a smile, "You don't understand this, right? Didn't you say that the heavier, the better? After no real currency is circulated, all those steel coins it has been remade, and although it can be found on the market now, it is still a bit difficult to find a batch. I simply asked my friend to customize a batch of new alloys based on the two elements of osmium and iridium, and made all these alloys into beads. Didn't you say that in addition to steel and iridium, beads can also be shaped?" Seeing Yilin's confused face, Molly continued to explain, "These two metals have the highest density and can be said to be the heaviest alloys that can be mass-produced at present, but in terms of hardness, they may be worse than alloys of other elements. Just throw it away. But you didn't say you wanted to be tough. If you don't like it, you can't blame me." Molly was afraid that Yilin would complain, so she blocked Yilin's escape route. No, 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 Yilin's smile grew stronger, satisfied. Satisfied. Very satisfied. Meng, thank you so much. Molly's expression froze. Did you misunderstand something? Yilin. When did I say there would be no charge? This. Yilin initially thought it was just steel. Even if Mo Mingmeng's Taurus attribute exploded, it wouldn't cost much. But Yilin didn't expect that. He originally just wanted to order a piece of clothing. Meng made a steel suit, it felt similar to this. But, Yilin cannot deny that it is perfect. As long as you can successfully overcome the tower's judgment and enter the storage space, it's worth spending any money. Unless, there's too much money. Well, how much does it cost? Molly smiled and quickly punched out a series of numbers on her phone. Don't worry, I've rounded it up for you. It's easy to remember. Hiya. Molly laughed evilly, one after another. When Yilin saw the long string of zeros, her eyes turned black. Molly knew all about Yilin's current assets. She had long expected that Yilin could not afford the repayment, so she was not surprised. She waved her hand and said, "Forget it, let's pay it first. I guess you are using it as a hidden weapon, right? This thing is a bit expensive. If you can, remember to recycle it after use." Recycle? Yilin's expression suddenly became weird, and she asked cautiously, "Well, what if, what if, there is no way to recycle it at all?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 173. The name, just call it Explosive Pearl. Yilin has always been satisfied with her taste in naming. It is simple, easy to remember, catchy, easy to understand, and can be enjoyed by both refined and popular people. In the end, Yilin still didn't tell Molly the true purpose of this batch of explosive beads. Anyway, he had too many debts, so it wouldn't hurt to owe a few more, so Yilin shamelessly asked Molly to customize a small piece of equipment according to his requirements. When Molly heard this, she saw that Yilin seemed determined to remain in debt until the end of time. She angrily pointed at Yilin's nose and scolded her, but in the end she agreed for no apparent reason. Yilin silently gave Molly a like. Yilin successfully put all the explosive beads into the storage space, which made Yilin completely relieved. However, because the box seems to contain two complex electronic components, it exceeds the threshold of the tower and cannot be included in the storage space. But that's not important. There is no concept of gravity in the storage space. After stuffing all the explosive beads into a corner, they only occupy a quarter of the space. Except for the Xiaoshizhen brand ancient sword, which is relatively unobtrusive, other props are stored in the form of cards. The storage space of about 1 cubic meter is barely enough. Looking at the storage space filled with explosive beads, Yilin couldn't help but laugh. The distance to the next trial in the inner world has become increasingly urgent. Of course, regardless of whether it was in the previous life or this life, Yilin had 2 lives of experience. She was no longer a rookie, and her mentality was very calm. She was not like some newbies who would be so nervous that their palms would sweat every time they entered the other world. Everything comes from the heart. While in Molly's laboratory, Yilin planned to seize the time, work hard to become familiar with the new skills, and develop that ability to get down to business. Only with more and more trump cards, Yilin feels more secure. After all, skills like bloodthirsty catastrophe can only be placed at the end, and at the end, they cannot be used as casually as disaster haunted. At present, Yilin does not dare to squander chaos points at will. If nothing else, the next one to be upgraded into the module should be the Batbike. Yilin was somewhat looking forward to what the Batmobile that originally belonged to Bruce Wayne would become after it was transformed into the Apocalypse Mount. Can it fly? Or will he transform? Or maybe it can breathe fire? Maybe drink beer? Just when Yilin was forgetting to eat and sleep, working tirelessly to develop her abilities, Lao Pan walked in directly, with a sad look on his face. He would rub the baseball bat in his hand from time to time, and it seemed that the smooth feel gradually made Lao Pan addicted. Every time Yilin saw Lao Pan's movements, she felt like, I have something I don't know whether to say or not. If Lao Pan knew why the other end of the stick was so slippery, would he be devastated? Thinking of this, Yilin decided not to tell the story even to death. Forever. What's wrong? Yilin asked casually. Pan Xiaozhang sighed, I may be really useless. Yilin thought for a moment, aren't you always useless? Pan Xiaozhang raised the stick slightly, as if hesitating whether to hit Yilin's face with the stick. What nonsense are you talking about? But Lao Pan's idea came up for a moment, and then he quickly lowered his head listlessly, I feel like I can't enter the other world this time. Yiren smiled. Turns out that was what I was worried about. There are many newbies in the Apostle Forum who are in constant fear and worry that they will die in the next world. Pan Xiaozheng was fine, but he was worried that he wouldn't be able to get in. Pan Xiaozheng's situation was really unbelievable. Yulin had never heard of it, let alone a solution, so he could only comfort him casually, "Don't worry, my time is about the same as yours. I haven't even entered yet. You might arrive, it's time to enter. If I count on my fingers, it will probably be within the next few days." Yulin calculated silently. Old Pan was dejected, alas. Etc. Yulin suddenly raised his head. He looked deeply at Lao Pan. His skill has just begun to take shape, and he is worried that it is not convenient to try it on himself. "Isn't this just the right person for you?" In fact, this was not Yulin's intention to trick Pan Xiaozheng into death. Only because this time, the mental attributes are still too low, and the condensed that always makes Yulin feel that it lacks a bit of flavor. If he rashly tries it on himself, if something goes wrong, others will not be able to solve it at all. "Well, Lao Pan, I actually have a way, but I don't know if you dare to try it," Yulin said slowly with a serious expression. Lao Pan stroked his stick, looked at Yulin's serious and focused expression, and slowly typed a question mark. 10 minutes later, Yulin made some simple preparations. A small notebook and a pen. You can record the changes in Lao Pan. Put away your stick just in case. The corners of Yulin's eyes twitched slightly, looking at the stick in Lao Pan's hand, feeling a little weird. Lao Pan didn't find it strange, since there were no enemies around, so he put away his stick. Besides, wash your hands and make them clean. Finally, ready. Yulin very carefully wrote round point 1 on the header of the first page of the notebook. "Well, just be casual, don't take it too seriously, as long as you can understand it." When Lao Pan saw Yulin taking notes very seriously, he suddenly realized, "Wait a minute, are you experimenting on me?" "Huh? Have you discovered all this?" Yulin smiled slightly. "Actually, it's not an experiment. I'm confident. Although there may be some twists and turns in the process, the success rate is still quite high. Trust me, do you think I've ever made a calculation mistake?" Lao Pan squinted his eyes and looked at Yulin's sincere eyes, still a little unsure. "Are you sure you won't cheat me?" Yulin laughed dumbly. "You are just a mobile warehouse now. Maybe you won't turn into a box when you die. What's the benefit of me cheating you? In short, this is a win-win experiment, I am sure of it." Yulin bit down hard on the last 4 words, emphasizing them. When Lao Pan thought about it carefully, it seemed that it was indeed the case. Whether it was at the end of Gotham City or the Zhanghuishan incident in Huading City, Yulin gave him the image of calmly tricking everyone, which indeed left a deep impression on Lao Pan. And, what Yulin said seems to make sense. He has been disabled for so long now, so instead of continuing like this, it would be better to let Yulin give it a try. Maybe we can even bring Pan Zhenji back. That's okay. Out of his limited trust in Yulin, Lao Pan decided to give up resistance and enjoy silently. Actually, as for Yulin, he didn't want to expose this new ability in front of anyone unless he had to. But helplessly, as the current mental attributes are not up to standard, Yulin is really not sure and will use this ability on herself first. Moreover, if we talk about the best candidate for the experiment, it should actually be classmate Li Erpang. After all, he is more resistant to beatings and torment. It's just that the little fat man is more shrewd and will not do anything to gain. If the little fat man knew about this, he would probably be beaten to death and would not come close to Yulin's area. As for my little fan Li Chang'e, Yulin was really afraid that she would torture Li Chang'e to death. So after much deliberation, Pan Xiaozheng, who was full of worries, became the best candidate for the experiment. "Well, sit down. Lao Pan sat down obediently. Yulin started to activate her abilities. As Yulin concentrated more and more, the power of telepathy gradually gathered on Yulin's fingers, as if the power of telekinesis formed a tiny vortex within an inch of her fingertips. Yulin closed her eyes and controlled the vortex on her fingertips based on her past feelings, imagining the power of her thoughts as substance, and then gradually gathered towards the center of the whirlpool, and the rotation speed became slower and slower, and the thought force, the density of power, is also getting denser. Finally, Yulin opened her eyes. It's done. Yulin breathed a sigh of relief. In his perception, a needle like a substance was slowly turning on Yulin's fingertips, like the hands of a clock. But from Lao Pan's perspective, Yulin seemed to just raise a finger and then make a constipated expression, with cold sweat breaking out on his forehead from time to time. Seeing Yulin open her eyes again, Lao Pan couldn't feel what changes had happened on his fingertips. Thinking about needles. This is one of the abilities that Yulin developed after mastering telekinesis in another future. But the real use of this ability does not lie in the needle reading itself. But the shape is almost the same, but it cannot be compressed any thinner. Yulin used the fastest speed to feel the rotating thought needle on her fingertips, comparing the difference with the complete version, and said slowly, although it is a little thicker and a little crooked, in theory, the thinking needle should be somewhere between virtual and real, and it should be usable. I just don't know how much deviation will occur after I poke it. Read acupuncture? Stamp. Crooked. Should it work? Pan Xiaozheng's ears twitched slightly, taking in all Yulin's soliloquy without deliberately lowering his voice. He suddenly felt something was wrong. Wait, tell me first dash. Sense, aim, read the needle, go. Yulin smiled slightly and twitched her fingers. She had no intention of giving Lao Pan a chance to hesitate or put forward his opinion. The threading needle was silent, invisible, and colorless, and it aimed fiercely at a certain point that Yulin had already aimed at. Poke it in. Pan Xiaozheng was only halfway through his words when he suddenly stopped. Suddenly. Lao Pan's eyes were confused for a moment, but the next moment, he suddenly stood up from the chair. Suddenly. Suddenly. Another violent blow, with his head facing up and his feet facing down, and he hit the ceiling hard. Boom. Snapped. Yulin watched Lao Pan fall from the ceiling with an expressionless face, and then without saying a word, she silently drew an XY axis under round point 1 and used the simplest coordinate system to record the castration version of the needle bias data. Then another page was turned. Right round point 2. Lao Pan was thrown to pieces by this sudden rise. What happened just now? Why did it suddenly fly? Did he just want to stand up? Lao Pan was confused. Etc. In other words, am I still here? In other words, Pan Zhenji did not come back. To be more precise, am I still useless? Pan Xiaozheng's head was knocked dazed and he quickly came to his senses. He suddenly jumped up from the ground, with a gash on his forehead and blood pouring out. He wished he could take out the stick skillfully. Please explain to me. Sense, aim, read the needle, and walk. Yulin's thinking needle concentration gradually became faster, and before Lao Pan could react, the second shot had already hit another point again. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 174. Call out. The needle instantly pierced into Lao Pan's brain again. From a different perspective. Lao Pan also has a completely different posture. Yulin had to sigh secretly. After the agility attribute was improved, the accuracy of his aim also improved a lot. At least Yulin himself believed that the accuracy of his needle injection was not too inaccurate. The only variable is the needle is slightly thicker. The curvature of the needle is also slightly curved. There is even a faint serpentine movement. It's not that Yulin doesn't want to make the needle thinner and straighter. It's because with Yilin's current mental attributes, he can't do any better. So, I feel wrong to you. Lao Pan. Call out. Lao Pan still can't guess why he accidentally boarded Yilin's pirate ship again. Depend on. Lao Pan cursed loudly, subconsciously took out his stick and glanced at Yilin. Of course, he didn't take out the stick to hit Yilin on the head, it was just a subconscious habit. Run. If you don't run, you're not a human being. Call out. As soon as Lao Pan pulled up his legs, he was horrified to find that the legs had inexplicably turned into someone else's legs. He instantly burst out at a speed beyond normal, but the progress of his upper body and lower body was completely different. Lao Pan looked confused. He was immediately dragged by two legs, and his upper body almost touched the ground in an instant. The next second, Lao Pan's two legs raced at a high speed and hit the wall of the secret room hard. Boom. Snap. Boom. 2 drops of nosebleed slowly flowed out of Lao Pan's nostrils. Lao Pan turned his back and had no idea what Yilin had done to him. Yilin ignored Lao Pan, who was lying on the ground with a nosebleed. He closed his eyes and calculated the deviation value of the site stimulated by the needle, and then silently continued to record it in his notebook. Then, while condensing the third threading needle, he wrote round point 3 in the small notebook. The third time. Read the needle. Let's start again. Lao Pan had no expression on his face, stepping on his left foot and his right foot, spinning his magic in circles. Snapped. His face fell to the ground again. Round point 4. Call out. Lao Pan ran around in the secret room happily. Suddenly, the rhythm of his left leg suddenly changed, and he suddenly lifted it up into the air. Lao Pan did a backflip on the spot without any expression, and then rolled towards the wall like a wheel. Click, 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 click. Boom. Boom. Round point 5. Round point 6. Round point 7. What the hell am I? Boom. After a while, Yilin panted, sweating on her head. Lao Pan was also panting, looking up at the ceiling with dull eyes. Yilin's small notebook is densely filled with various data. Of course it's not very professional, but as long as he can understand it. In another timeline, Yilin once accidentally obtained a so-called ancient martial arts book. To be precise, it was a lost secret method. The golden needle crosses the appointment and the heaven and earth are reversed. But in that timeline, Yilin was a pure spiritual apostle, but when he accidentally obtained the secret book, he was very interested in the secret method recorded above, which uses ancient golden needles to stimulate specific parts of the brain and stimulate the human body's potential. Interested? Of course, in that era, the 9 needles had been lost. But through various experiments, Yilin actually found out for him a secret method that achieved the same goal as the golden needle crossing the appointment to reversal the world. As for the content of the experiment and the subjects of the experiment, it's okay not to mention it, it's not important. Golden needles, Yilin doesn't have any. So Yilin used the power of her mind to condense the mind needle. The difference between mind acupuncture and golden needle is that mind acupuncture is actually just a needle formed after the power of mind acupuncture is almost materialized. But what Yilin didn't expect was that through various experiments, he found that the stimulating effect of thought acupuncture on the brain was stronger, more ferocious, and faster than that of golden acupuncture. The brain is an extremely mysterious organ. Yilin would not dare to inject it on herself without fully testing it on other people. Moreover, chanting acupuncture has another benefit. The mind acupuncture has no entity, so after the mind acupuncture stimulates and triggers the potential, it will not leave any needle holes in the brain. In other words, there will be almost no sequelae. Yilin summarized the test results on Lao Pan. Smile slightly. Lao Pan was so tortured at this moment that he only had half his life left. HP 56%. Really only half a life left. This was also thanks to Yulin taking a short break midway, which allowed Lao Pan to recover his health. Lao Pan saw that Yulin had stopped his experiment and glanced at Yulin expressionlessly. It's over, is it over? In an instant. Lao Pan was still a little uncomfortable with it. Yulin chuckled and closed the small notebook. That's almost it? Haven't you noticed that in the last few times, your body has basically been coordinated? When Yulin said this, Lao Pan suddenly woke up. It seems, it really is. That. When Lao Pan thought of this, there was a trace of expectation in his eyes, and he stopped talking. Take a break first. Yulin closed her eyes. Silently restores Chinook energy. Also thinking. In terms of the current mental attributes, the duration of thinking needle is still too short. But as one of the trump cards, it's just right. After all, the consumption is not big. But if more power is needed, Yulin suddenly thought of his own physique. Dionysian factor. This is a self-healing ability that he never gained in his previous life. An idea flashed in Yulin's mind. Since his physical fitness is far better than before, maybe he can increase the activation power by 1 level, and maybe he can get double the happiness. Thinking like this, Yulin subconsciously glanced at Lao Pan's forehead again. Hesitating whether to let Lao Pan experience double happiness. Old Pan was stared at by Yulin's inexplicable eyes. Although his eyes were so calm and peaceful, for some reason, Old Pan actually shuddered inexplicably. Never mind. Yulin finally decided to give up trying to double happiness with Lao Pan. He was really afraid that if something went wrong, he would do something good to Lao Pan. Traps will be deceived, but if Lao Pan is tricked to death, it will really affect everyone's relationship, and the gain will outweigh the loss. It seems that some physical therapy techniques require personal experience. To be honest, after the Dionysian factor was strengthened in the physical body, Yulin's body was far more suitable for tormenting than Lao Pan. Again. As Yulin pricked Lao Pan's forehead with needles over and over again, she seemed to have developed a new method of acupuncture therapy by accident. Maybe, it can be used as a control skill. But compared to disaster-ridden, if the mind needle wants to prick other people's foreheads, it has too many shortcomings. First, distance. No enemy would stick out his head like Lao Pan. Second, that is, the price/performance ratio is not high. If the distance between the two parties is so close that they can easily touch the dog's head, shouldn't they just kill it with a knife? Do you have to get 2 needles and waste your Chinook energy? This is a bit tasteless. But in some special occasions, it might be useful. Yulin lowered his head and glanced at Pan Xiaozheng, who was bruised and swollen from being beaten at his feet. So I am more certain. Well, it will definitely be useful for some special occasions, I'm sure. Half an hour later. Lao Pan was still lying on the ground, too lazy to get up. He was afraid that he would have to toss and turn again later, so it would be more enjoyable to lie down and enjoy it. Yulin's spiritual energy level had almost recovered, and now she skillfully condensed a mind needle. After several experiments, Yulin had a rough idea of how far the substandard thought needle on her fingertips should deviate in order to show the desired effect. As the saying goes, experimentation leads to true knowledge. Don't move. Yulin smiled. Lao Pan resignedly closed his eyes. In fact, Yulin probably has a way to get Pangenji back, but Yulin can't guarantee whether it will work. Just as NT-046 can suppress Pangenji, if you think about it in reverse, you can use a mind needle to instantly stimulate Pangenji's brain and make Pangenji's brain active in a short time. I don't know if it can awaken Pangenji. Since Pangenji's storage space is still there, it means that the account Pangenji must still be in this body, but Pan Xiaozheng does not have the permission to open it. Yulin didn't hesitate. Aim at a certain acupuncture point, instantly, read the needle, Go. Call out. Except for Yilin, Pan Xiaozheng couldn't see him at all. A small thought needle instantly sank into Lao Pan's forehead. Suddenly, Lao Pan's eyes widened and bulged out. The next second, those eyes that were half helpless and half heroic turned into confusion in the blink of an eye. It's no use. Yilin now has enough psychic energy and is hesitant to take advantage of the first needle before it disappears and shoot it again so that Lao Pan can experience double the happiness. But a few more seconds passed. Lao Pan suddenly bounced up from the ground. Hey hey! Lao Pan suddenly laughed sinisterly, his laughter becoming more neurotic and perverted. He suddenly looked at Yilin. Yilin felt a familiar madness in her eyes. Hey! Boy! Long time no see. Climbing a mountain? I brought a photo. Success. Yilin knew it when she heard the familiar tone and the inexplicable lines. Pan Zhenji is on the account again. But before Pan Zhenji finished speaking, he stopped abruptly. He suddenly covered his chest in pain and was sweating. So fast? Yilin didn't have time to reminisce about the past with Pan Zhenji, whom she hadn't seen for a long time. Pan Zhenji laughed strangely after feeling the severe pain from the death mark. Without stopping for a moment, he disappeared in front of Yilin in the blink of an eye. This sudden disappearance. Yilin couldn't help but be slightly startled. Then he couldn't laugh or cry, you really come in a hurry and leave in a hurry. There's 1 minute left. I don't know if Pan Zhenji can survive this trial since he hasn't been on duty for so long. Fortunately, Pan Xiaozheng put away the stick not long ago, at least the weapon was still in hand. Next. Yilin condensed another needle. Tossing and turning over Lao Pan's body, if it doesn't work for him in the end, it will be in vain. Yilin spreads her perception. Under the perception of telekinesis, the positioning is more accurate. There can be a few harmless deviations in Lao Pan, but it is definitely not allowed in myself. Know why? Yilin carefully determined the position. On her fingertips, the threading needle had already been condensed and ready to go. 6 seconds later, Yilin finally made up her mind. He raised the threading needle and plunged it into his forehead. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 175. KAMMXW Laboratory. This is a newly divided room specially used for Ling Yi's treatment with a shake of Molly's little hand. There is a small plaque at the door. Molly only. At this time, Molly had no time to care about what Yilin was doing. She was concentrating on starting the first stage of pulse wave treatment for Ling Yi. I saw Ling Yi looking calm and wearing a metal helmet, with strange lights flashing from time to time on the surface of the helmet. The surroundings are densely packed with various precision instruments, and there are curves of various shapes on several display screens, which are constantly undulating. Ling Yi's body was also covered with various electrodes to monitor Ling Yi's vital signs during the treatment. In order to ensure safety, once Ling Yi feels unwell, even if Ling Yi does not say it herself, the instrument can reflect Ling Yi's most objective physiological state from the side. Well, it turns out that medical equipment is not difficult to obtain, right? Molly lowered her head and was busy, and silently gave herself a like. Ling Yi lay flat on her back. Well. Acridine. While Molly was paying attention to Ling Yi's various data, she couldn't help but look in Ling Yi's direction from time to time. If Molly had electrodes attached to her body at this time, I believe her heart rate might have fluctuated like those curves. At the very least, the heart rate is constantly fluctuating. For some reason, Molly, looking at Ling Yi's exaggerated curves that were still exposed when she was lying on her back, suddenly came up with a sentence in her brain that had never had a literary talent. The peaks and ridges are like giants, the waves are like raging waves, the mountains and rivers are both inside and outside. Acridine. What's next? Molly suddenly felt something was wrong with herself and shook her head violently to throw away the messy thoughts in her mind. Etc. Molly's heart moved. After struggling for a while, he coughed twice and asked in a low voice, "Sister Yi, are you feeling uncomfortable?" Ling Yi didn't dare to move. After hearing Molly's question, she said softly, "Well, don't worry, I feel pretty good." Correct. Molly couldn't help but glance at Ling Yi, but she quietly picked up the tablet in her hand and asked, pretending not to care, "Sister Yi, what do you usually eat?" "What do you mean?" Ling Yi laughed. "Just, what do you usually like to eat? Do you have any fixed recipes or something like that?" Huh, Ling Yi couldn't help but feel a little doubtful when she heard this. "Does this has anything to do with my eyes?" Molly said in a serious tone, "It's hard to say. As a scientist, you must be rigorous. I just want to take a look and analyze your nutritional intake to see if it is related to the nutritional intake." "Is that so?" Ling Yi did not doubt him, and after thinking for a moment, she spoke carefully, "Actually, I personally don't like eating synthetic food. I prefer eating fresh vegetables, fruits, and meat. If you say, I prefer beef, the taste is on the lighter side, and I occasionally make my own salad." Ling Yi didn't hide anything, and told her her favorite food. Molly quickly recorded on the tablet with her fingers, her eyes flashed from time to time, and she nodded subconsciously, "Yeah, yeah. Increase the intake of vitamins. Beef. Wait, the ratio of protein to fat in beef, I don't know if different cuts of beef have any effect, it's quite expensive. I don't eat synthetic food, is it because it contains trace amounts of hormones?" "Yes, yes, although hormones can promote growth and development, it is unnatural and unhealthy." If there is no fixed nutritional intake, wouldn't it coincide with a certain research paper? Sure enough, it is still related to personal physique and genetic factors. Woo. Countless data flashed through Molly's mind instantly. She couldn't help but scratch her hair, her expression gradually collapsed. Development. Genetic. Personal physique. Ling Yi's hearing was very good, and she heard all of Molly's whispers to herself. The more she listened, the more confused she became. She couldn't help but interrupt Molly's thoughts, "Lily. Lily, couldn't you?" Molly's face was expressionless, and she slapped the tablet on the table. "No, don't get me wrong, it's nothing." Molly decided not to dwell on this matter for the time being. After all, it was still a long time and she was still young, so she had plenty of opportunities to learn from her experience. "It seems that Ling Yi's treatment will take some time." Molly couldn't help but ask again, "Sister Yi, what is your relationship with that Hundan? That soul is weak?" Ling Yi was startled for a moment, and then came back to her senses after a moment. Who was the soul that Molly was referring to? She couldn't help but chuckle. "Are you talking about Lin Hundan? Haha, we are, oh my friend." Friend. Molly thought about these two words carefully. Etc. She suddenly remembered something. That guy came back from the future and was foresighted about many things. Molly even recalled the experience of being tricked by Yilin into boarding the pirate ship, so she secretly gritted her teeth and asked, "Oh. So we are really friends, I thought. You don't think I'm his, girlfriend, do you?" Ling Yi immediately saw through Molly's little thoughts. "Molly, surprise. When I was still in the orphanage 3 years ago, Rin was a volunteer in the community. In fact, he was very kind to everyone in the orphanage. Well, Rin is a good person." While listening to Ling Yi's words, Molly was already quickly checking Ling Yi's information. Yuwo County Welfare Home. Ching Cheng. Aha! There is such a big difference. How dare you say that you are a community volunteer? You are a liar. Molly immediately became angry, the kind that was so angry that, wait, 3 years ago? Why did you secretly take advantage of time travel to pick up girls 3 years ago? Soulless. You really can do it? Molly almost wanted to expose Yilin's bad deeds. But after a few seconds, after Molly's angry mood calmed down a little, another thought flashed across her mind. So to say, Yilin didn't tell that secret to Ling Yi? In other words, Yilin's rebirth is a little secret exclusive between Molly and Yilin? Well, forget it. Molly nodded secretly. In this case, I won't expose the soul. I, Molly, am not such a stingy woman. Thinking of this, Molly suddenly felt a lot more comfortable. Lily. Ling Yi seemed to hear Molly's heartbeat one after another, and couldn't help but call out again. Acridine? I'm fine. I was just thinking about something. By the way, Sister Yi, what did you just say? I said, Rin is a good person. Good guy? Could this be the legendary good guy card? Hiya. I never thought you would be here today. Ling Yi was actually given the good guy card. Lily almost couldn't help but laugh out loud, but she finally held it back and echoed very seriously, well, he is indeed a good person, a very good kind. Huh. Etc. What does Hunden being given the good guy card have to do with me, Molly? Molly was slightly startled, feeling that her reaction was a little strange. Right now. Yilin opened the door and walked in. Molly has also opened up permissions to Yilin in this treatment room. Yilin can enter by brushing her face without knocking on the door. The moment Yilin stepped into the treatment room, seeing the happy expression on Molly's face, she couldn't help but slowly typed a question mark. Is there any progress in treatment? Yilin couldn't help but ask. Shit, Molly said back unceremoniously, do you understand what science is? Is there progress just after the treatment started? Do you think I am you? Molly suddenly remembered that Ling Yi didn't know anything about it, so she swallowed back the words perverts like you and changed the subject. By the way, didn't you say you have something to do? Come over here to disturb us. What? Well. Seeing that Molly's tone was unkind, Yilin didn't think too much about it and just took out a small notebook. Please help me, what does this mean? Yilin handed the small notebook in her hand to Molly. With doubts, Molly opened the small notebook Yilin handed over. Round point 1. No, it's the last one. Yilin's expression was calm, and she suddenly forgot that there was a record of tricking Lao Pan to death, so she silently turned to the last page. Oh. Molly took a few quick glances at the scrawled XY axis coordinate chart. After realizing that there was no logic, she stopped paying attention and turned directly to the last page Yilin pointed to. On the page, there are only two patterns. A circle and a square. That is circles and squares. Molly slowly typed a question mark with a confused look on her face. Seeing that Yilin didn't seem to be joking, she looked at the two simple patterns more seriously, as if she wanted to find out the hidden connotations of these two patterns. Riddle? A guessing game? Or what text? Circle left or square right? The sky is round and the place is round. Fighting each other? Equation? Quantum mechanics? Or a design sketch for some new technology? Several thoughts ran through Molly's mind. A good while. Molly racked her brains and couldn't think of any other answer that seemed more meaningful. What is this? Finally, Molly chose to give up. Yilin frowned, her expression became more solemn. I think this should be a square and a circle. What do you think? Molly was slightly furious. Didn't you draw this yourself? I came here to ask you just because I wasn't sure. Go away. Don't you see that this girl is very busy? Molly looked at Yilin's face with her bare feet and kicked him. Fortunately, she thought about it for a long time, and it turned out that Hunden was just teasing her. Ling Yi suddenly whispered, it seems that someone is coming, It's a bit dangerous. Yilin heard Ling Yi's voice. Startled slightly. He knew that Ling Yi's hearing was unusually sharp. Danger. It was precisely because of this moment of distraction that Yilin had no intention of joking with Molly, and let Molly step on his face with a snap. Molly also simply froze on the spot. She also didn't expect that Yilin didn't avoid it. Right now. It didn't take a few seconds after Ling Yi sounded the reminder. A powerful and murderous voice came from outside the door. Where is that bastard who bullied my sweet and well-behaved granddaughter? Boom. Boom. The voice that was almost full of anger and murderous intent had just come. The alloy door that only Emily, Yilin, and Ling Yi had the authority to enter suddenly shook. Immediately afterwards, a figure wearing a black kung fu robe had an expressionless face and slapped the door open. As expected, the Molly control is invincible. Yilin. Molly. Ling Yi. Excuse me. Amorendi lowered his head at first and subconsciously wanted to walk out. Then suddenly he walked in with his eyes wide open. You are indeed here, little bastard. Yilin suddenly understood. No wonder Ling Yi said there was danger. I bet you always bang the door open to find someone, right? This guy really has an invincible style. Yilin suddenly had a lot of things to say in her heart, but she didn't know where to start. Amorendi suddenly opened his eyes wide and stared at Yilin and Emily. You brat, please take my granddaughter's legs off your face. Acridine. Only then did Molly realize that because her grandfather rushed in without any precautions, Molly's foot kept stepping on Yilin's face. This bad posture made the old man not know where to go. Yilin's face was expressionless. What the hell is this logic? Take your granddaughter's legs off my face? At first glance, it doesn't sound like there are any logical flaws, right? Seeing Molly shrinking back, Amorendi breathed a sigh of relief. He rubbed his fists, and there was a terrifying light in his eyes. Boy, do you have the guts to come out with me? My dear granddaughter can't see you. Blood. Haha, how dare you bully my sweet granddaughter Meng Meng? Etc. How could Amorendi suddenly come to kill him? Yilin couldn't help but ask, who told you that I was bullying Molly? Humph. Xiao Zhao saw it with his own eyes. Can he be wrong? Lao Zhao. The corners of Yilin's eyes twitched slightly. Then what the damn old Zhao said? He said, Molly was very panicked when she saw Yilin. The shoes under her feet were like a single shadow. When she looked back, Molly's face was full of sadness and fatigue, like a lonely and helpless cat under the sunset. Licking the scars on your palms, aren't you saying that you bullied my good granddaughter? Yilin and Emily listened to Amorendi's words. They actually said half a sentence in unison, what the hell dash. At the same time, they stopped suddenly and looked at each other. Molly didn't have time to be shy. Yilin felt helpless in her heart. What the hell, Zhao Yulong is indeed an old scammer. What's the matter with this line of poetry that makes people think of it's better to have cars here than to have cars here? It would be a pity if you don't become a poet, damn. Although this was indeed the case at the time, with this description, it is no wonder that Amorendi would come here immediately after finishing what he was doing. Moreover, Mr. Mo, you seem to have a little problem with your reading comprehension ability. Molly suddenly reacted, Grandpa. How many doors in my laboratory did you break? Amorendi waved his hand magnanimously, my dear granddaughter. It doesn't matter. Grandpa will have someone fix it right away. When facing Molly, Amorendi instantly put on a doting smile. Humph, Amorendi looked at Yilin, his expert demeanor clearly displayed, like the bright scorching Sunday just standing there gave Yilin a sense of oppression without anger and self-power. Wait until Grandpa beats this guy, little bastard, let's talk about it later. Molly habitually acted coquettishly towards Amorendi, Grandpa. This is my territory. Besides, you have no reason to hit him. The reason, Rendi asked in confusion, what is the reason? Yulin. After Rendi finished speaking, he dragged Yulin away without saying a word. Rendi dragged Yulin away furiously. Molly was stunned. Ling Yi was a little worried. She didn't say a word from beginning to end. It wasn't until Rendi left that she couldn't help but ask, your grandfather shouldn't do anything to Rin, right? Well, don't worry, my grandpa loves me the most. Molly said confidently first. Then she quickly remembered the terrible scene just now and Lao Zhao's even worse description. Maybe, maybe. Actually, Molly wasn't sure either. 10 minutes before Ren came to find Molly. When Yulin came back to her senses, Lao Pan was already looking here and there in the huge secret room, with a mysterious sand sculpture aura all over his body. Pan Zhenji. Seeing that old Pan did not stroke his stick as he was used to, Yulin could almost immediately tell which personality was controlling old Pan. Well, long time no see. Hey. Goodbye, boy. Pan Zhenji suddenly waved his hand towards Yulin. Then, Lao Pan chuckled and said grimly, ah, you are gone. Yulin decided not to try to figure out the deeper meaning of Pan Zhenji's words. Because there is no deep meaning at all. But to be honest, Pan Zhenji's lines made Yulin feel a little nostalgic after a long absence. Etc. Yulin ignored the nervous Pan Zhenji for now. He suddenly remembered that in his impression, he had clearly used the angle to stimulate Pan Zhenji's brain and shot himself in the same posture. What happened just now? In the blink of an eye, just 1 minute passed? Or, longer? Pan Zhenji has returned from the other world alive? Yulin frowned, trying to recall the memory of the fragment. Even when he opened the apostle panel over and over again, he didn't find anything strange. Could it be that, stimulating the brain in a short period of time and increasing the level of brain activity will cause the mental attributes to skyrocket instantly, and then turn into a psychosis like Lao Pan? Yulin suddenly looked weird and came to an even weirder conclusion. At this time, only then did he discover that the location of the small notebook that recorded Pan Ziajeng's deception was somewhat different. It was actually within Yulin's reach. That's a new page. 2 designs were scrawled on the page. Side by side. A circle. A square. It looks ordinary and nothing special. Yulin's frown deepened. He glanced at Pan Zhenji, who was giggling on the spot, and then looked down at the handwriting in the notebook. This. Is it Pan Zhenji's handwriting, or was it, that he accidentally painted it when he cut off the piece just now? Rendi said. Choose a place and let's solve the problem the way men do. The moment she heard these words, it was hard for Yulin to imagine that such words would come from Rendi's mouth. So Yulin was dragged here by Rendi. According to Molly, the secret room is more resistant to torment. And spacious enough. Yulin has also done a lot of experiments and is indeed very tolerant. Oh. You actually found my old training room. When Rendi took a look, there was an expression of nostalgia on his face. Yulin suddenly understood. It turns out that this is the reason why this room is so durable. It was actually transformed into a secret room for dangerous experiments by Molly. It turns out that in Molly's eyes, invincible can be equated with dangerous experiment. Yulin suddenly realized. Yulin was thrown to the ground by Rendi. Click. The door is locked. Rendi had a sneer on his face and clenched his fists. Little bastard, I've been wanting to beat you for a long time. Huh? In other words, what Lao Zhao said is just an excuse for you. You are wrong, Rendi gritted his teeth, this makes me want to beat you even more. Reason. Although Rendi said that he never needed a reason to beat someone, Yulin really wanted to know why Rendi didn't like him. Rendi thought carefully for a few seconds. Then he said slowly, 2 days ago, it was the 17th anniversary of my sweet granddaughter Meng Meng learning to walk dash. Meng Meng actually mentioned your kid's name 5 times. Suddenly, Amorendi finished speaking. But he stopped talking nonsense, smiled coldly, and walked towards Yilin step by step. As soon as Yilin saw Amorendi's strange steps, he understood instantly. No one beats anyone up against him, he means it. No joke. So in an instant, Yilin also became serious and did not regard Amorendi's words as nonsense. Because, if you are not careful, you will most likely die under Amorendi's fist. Even if he is Molly's grandfather. Yilin still remembers that in the dual space, Zhang Huishun, who came from somewhere, used a copy card to copy 80% of Amorendi's attributes. But with only 80% of Amorendi's attributes, Yilin had to activate the final trump card Bloodthirsty Catastrophe, and cooperate with various props to finally kill Zhang Huishun safely and without any suspense. I still remember that when Yilin first met Amorendi in this timeline, she tried to throw away Disaster Ridden. And Amorendi is truly the ceiling of ancient human warriors. He has reached the limit of human willpower through training alone. The negative effect of Disaster Ridden can only make Amorendi's body shake slightly for a moment. Amorendi's steps were extremely strange. The movement seemed to be extremely slow, and every step could be seen clearly, but it also seemed to be extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Yilin and punched Yilin in the chest with an ordinary punch. Really ordinary fist. This is a truly ordinary fist. It seems to have nothing special except that it can kill people easily. Number of uses, unlimited. I don't know if it came from the apostle's bad habits, but the moment Yilin was hit by Amorendi, he couldn't help but figure out the attributes of that fist. Click click click. Yilin had already used his telekinesis to lay a dragnet in front of him, but the castrated version of his telekinesis was unable to form a defensive effect against Amorendi's fist. It could only make Yilin's perception, an instant earlier than his vision. It's just the direction of Amorendi's fist. Yilin had no time to dodge. Even if he could see clearly, he would never be able to dodge. Because, according to Yilin's speculation, Amorendi's force sensitivity attribute has almost reached the extreme level of human beings, and is about to break through the lock. That is, strength, agility, most likely both are 10 points. Besides, data is just data. It doesn't really reflect Amorendi's strength. Amorendi is a man who is infinitely close to the limits of human beings. It is estimated that Yilin used Bloodthirsty Disaster to stack his attributes to the same level as Amorendi. Without using any skills or props, he is definitely no match for Amorendi. Amorendi's ordinary fist hit Yilin's arm. Amorendi let out a soft "oh," as if Yilin could react in an instant and block his punch. And felt slightly surprised. But it's just a drop. Yilin's arm that blocked Amorendi's fist collapsed instantly and bent into a miserable shape. Click, 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 that was the crisp sound of fractures. Boom. The huge momentum made Yilin fly backwards and hit the wall behind her hard. This seems to be the same position that Lao Pan hit not long ago. Yo-ho. At some point, Pan Zhenji sat in the corner, laughing and shouting with joy. Then he whispered. Round point 1 yo. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 176. If Yilin was still in a leisure mood at this moment to take care of Pan Zhenji, she might mistakenly think that Pan Xiaozheng was on the number again and watch with gloating. It's a pity that Yilin is not free. All his attention was focused on the bad old man in front of him. Every movement made by Amorendi was natural and natural. It doesn't seem to be anything special, but between actions, it bursts out with irresistible power. Yulin was pressed against the wall by the inertia of the punch and stuck to the wall for a few seconds before sliding to the floor. Health 41%. A seemingly ordinary punch actually knocked out more than half of Yulin's health in an instant. This was even when Yulin was barely able to block it. Yulin's face was expressionless. He stood up again. One arm was hanging down, and the forearm was bent at a weird angle, looking extremely miserable. Amorendi smiled slightly. I'm afraid that my good granddaughter Meng Meng will be angry, so I just cripple you. Click. Yulin twisted hard with his other hand, and the broken arm made a heartbreaking sound as it reset, and the bent bones were forcibly straightened by Yulin. Add 5%. Add 5%. Add 5%. As waves of fatigue and emptiness hit her, Yulin's health was recovering rapidly. A mysterious power surged out from somewhere within his body, and the bones broken by Amorendi were also healing at a certain speed. After being strengthened by the Dionysian factor, incomplete, Yulin's physique has fallen out of the human category. Think of this. Yulin felt as if she had forgotten something important. The Dionysus factor is not a flawless enhancement. Every time the health is restored, Yulin will take away a certain amount of physical energy. Physical strength cannot be quantified, and Yulin can only estimate how much physical strength she can exert based on her physical condition. If I get hammered down by this bad old man again, the consequences could be disastrous. Amorendi saw Yulin's movements. Feng Qingyun's eyes actually lit up slightly. Oh! Yulin waited until recovery was complete. Taking a deep breath, he remembered Amorendi's mysterious footwork that had been displayed in front of him more than once, and couldn't help but ask, "What kind of footwork are you doing?" Amorendi chuckled, "Want to learn?" Yulin's expression froze. "You teach me?" "Bah, that's a nice thought." Yulin. To be honest, Yulin can't learn the fists of Amoren. After all, it doesn't have that attribute. It's just the way of movement and the unpredictable rhythm that makes Yulin a little interested. Forget it if you don't teach, that's stingy. Yulin had already guessed this result, but she didn't expect that Amorendi would suddenly get skinny at the end. Thinking of this, Yulin sighed and prepared to leave. Amorendi snorted softly, "Did I let you go?" Yulin didn't look back, just stopped where he was, and said with a slight smile, "Can you really beat me to death? Don't forget, I didn't do anything cruel to you because you are Ming Meng's grandpa, otherwise, even if I can't beat you, I can still make you." Yulin did not continue. Amorendi became curious, "Huh? What do you want me to do?" Yulin continued to walk towards the exit. In the corner, Old Pan whistled loudly happily. Then he smiled and stretched out two fingers, round point two. Only then did Yulin understand Pan Zhenji's dirty words. At this moment, Yulin suddenly felt a feeling in her heart, the way of heaven is so reincarnated, no one can be bypassed by heaven. Isn't this Pan Xiaozhang pretending to be Pan Zhenji? Right now. Amorendi smiled slightly again, and the black kung fu robe rippled again. The footsteps were silent and traceless. Amorendi seemed slow but fast, and was approaching Yulin's back in the blink of an eye. Amorendi seemed unwilling to make a sneak attack and shouted loudly, "Be careful of my fists, I'm going to cripple you." Call out. Yulin suddenly threw a small card on the ground. Card. Props. Ah. Amorendi felt happy when he saw Yulin finally starting to use his apostle's abilities. In this way, I can beat you with more peace of mind. If Yulin was lying on the ground with his eyes closed, as if he were ready to taste it, Amorendi, given his status and qualifications, would probably be too embarrassed to be cruel. As for what props Yulin used, Amorendi was not afraid at all. "No matter how many ways you try, I can solve it with just one punch." Just when Amorendi punched out, his heart was full of pride. The small card that Yulin shook out in his hand turned into a small, Exquisite, withered banana peel. The color is as yellow as shit. Humph. It's a small skill, how could I possibly? Eep. Amorendi suddenly looked confused. For some reason, when he saw the banana peel, he clearly thought that it was impossible to fall into such a boring trick, but in his heart there was a good granddaughter Amo Meng Meng hiding in his heart, making a sweet and lovely voice, yo yo yo, to induce Amorendi to step on it. Amorendi finally couldn't hold it back anymore, he put away his fist and stepped on it. The next second, Amorendi was knocked upside down by a piece of banana peel. Yulin had already anticipated the scene when she threw the banana peel. After all, the ordinary series of props are different from ordinary props. Although the series of props do not have any substantial lethality or other terrifying abilities, they are so extreme that they can make people lose their temper. Even Zhang Huishan was trapped and killed in the dual space by Yulin's banana peel. While in the dual space, Yulin used 5 banana peels to kill Zhang Huishan. And now that another use was used up, Yulin felt a little sad silently. Then, Yulin was already prepared. At the moment when Amorendi was doomed to fall on his back, he did not hesitate to punch and kick Amorendi's hateful face without any hesitation. In fact, at the moment Amorendi fell, Yulin wanted to try if he could kill Amorendi by taking out the knife. By the way, you will get the achievement of killing the strongest human being. But when she thought that Amorendi was Molly's grandfather, no matter how tempting the idea was, Yulin would never do it. Unless. Absolutely not. Besides, with Mo's invincible attributes and the ancient martial arts that have been trained to the peak, if he really wanted to kill himself, Yulin would probably consume the life-saving items that he had already used with the first punch. That was a precious gold medal to avoid death, and Yulin didn't want to waste it in the hands of an enemy. Boom, boom, boom. Although this bad old man can't be killed, he can still beat him to death. Anyway, Amorendi has high strength attributes and thick skin. Yulin doesn't believe that ordinary punches and kicks can kill Amorendi. So he started to attack without any mercy. Amorendi was hit on the head about 10 times, and suddenly he reacted and roared. In an instant, Yulin seemed to feel a boundless murderous intent erupting from Amorendi's body. Almost as soon as he felt the fierce murderous intent, Yulin did not hesitate, nor did he linger on the pleasure of punching Amorendi in the face. He instantly turned on run fast and retreated as fast as possible. Tread. Suddenly, the whole room seemed to shake violently. When Yulin looked back, it was discovered that Amorendi had mysteriously disappeared in place. There were actually 2 deep footprints left where the enemy lay on his back. If you look closely, you will see that even the texture of the solace of Amorendi's cloth shoes can be clearly seen on the footprints. The most terrifying thing is that there are no unnecessary cracks around the footprints, that is, the edges of the shoe prints. In other words, Amorendi's degree of control over the hostile power was beyond imagination. He could move his hands and feet freely with every move, without any excess power leaking out. I remember that when she was in a Nigiri mountain, Ota also tried to use the Onichi buff to superimpose the strength attribute to the limit of the power lock. But at that time, Yulin had already seen through Otami's shortcomings and was unable to completely control the surge in power. The true human limits should be the tip of the iceberg revealed by Amorendi unintentionally. Above. After Amorendi disappeared, Yulin raised her head suddenly. I saw Amorendi using 2 fingers to dig deeply into the ceiling. With only the strength of 2 fingers, he maintained the posture hanging on the ceiling. Yulin couldn't help but laugh when she saw Amorendi's actions. Are you afraid of banana peels? Amorendi's expression was filled with surprise and uncertainty, as if he couldn't accept it at all. He, the dignified Amorendi, would actually slip on a piece of banana peel. He thought about it for a long time, and finally couldn't help but ask, is this what skin? Yilin's lips curled up, want to know. Oh, I won't tell you. Yilin was also a little surprised. Unexpectedly, after Fatty beat Amorendi just now, Amorendi didn't even have any bruises on his face. After all, Yilin's strength attribute value is too low. Without a knife in hand, Yilin's lethality is really limited. Although Amorendi is not an apostle. But it could be seen from his expression that Amorendi guessed that it was no ordinary banana peel. It's something that no one can resist stepping on and smashing it into pieces. It's definitely not an ordinary banana peel. Amorendi calmed down quickly. Even after the banana peel slipped on her, Yilin's fist hit her body without any pain or itching. But I can't stand the shame. The dignified leader of the special team, the most powerful person in the Long Kingdom, and the famous old man, was unexpectedly slipped by a wilted banana peel. If word spread. Even if it doesn't spread, if it reaches the ears of his sweet granddaughter Meng Meng, where will he put his old face as a grandfather? It's such a disgrace to grandpa. That's why Amorendi used this method to temporarily hide on the ceiling. As long as he keeps his feet on the ground, he won't step on a banana peel. As long as he hides high enough, the banana peel can't get up. The corners of Yilin's eyes twitched slightly, and she raised her index finger towards Amorendi on the ceiling. Are you coming down? Amorendi's beard twitched. Come up. Get down. No. Come up. You, come down. For a moment, the two were at a stalemate. No one would give in. One is afraid of being embarrassed, the other is afraid of being beaten. In the corner, Pangenji, who had always had no sense of presence, suddenly took out a stick from the storage space. Duin. 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 Pangenji hit the ground hard with his stick, making a dull metal knocking sound, and then raised 3 fingers. Round point 3 Yo. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 177. Yilin was silent for a moment. Suddenly he smiled, if you don't come down, I'll leave. Amorendi. He looked very speechless and confused. It doesn't matter if it goes down, it doesn't matter if it doesn't go down. A few seconds later, Amorendi puffed his beard and stared, you little bastard, don't throw any more banana peels. Yo. It seems that one thing is really destroying another thing. Is Amorendi really afraid of this? Yilin refused, if I don't throw the banana peel, will I beat you in vain? Am I stupid? Seemingly. It makes sense. Logically speaking, there is nothing wrong with it. If it weren't for that weird banana peel, Amoren would be able to beat whoever he wanted and use whatever posture he wanted. But if I don't beat him, I feel very guilty. Amorendi, who was clasping his fingers on the ceiling, was inexplicably trapped in a strange tangle. Moreover, Amorendi seemed to notice it too. Yilin's physique is a bit abnormal. The punch that could have crippled Yilin just now seems not to hurt the little bastard who bullied his cute granddaughter. Yilin shook her arms. In the midst of the wrangling, the bones broken by Amorendi have healed. But it still hurts a little. The feeling of straightening bent bones is something most people simply cannot bear. Seeing that Amorendi was beginning to struggle, the corners of Yilin's mouth raised slightly. He began to show a skillful expression that was about to trick someone. How about we make a bet? Huh, Amorendi frowned and said only one word, say. Yilin chuckled, I don't need banana peels, I can also beat you up, as you like. But if I can hurt you, you have to agree to a condition. Ha. Amorendi suddenly laughed, you can hurt me without a banana peel? Just you. Yilin smiled calmly, how will you know if you don't try? Amorendi gradually stopped smiling, are you sure? I mean, are you sure you won't throw away the banana peel? If you dare to bet, I dare not to throw it away. No skin is allowed to be thrown away. Okay. I won't lose any skin. I swear. Yilin's tone was determined. I'm right. Amorendi suddenly sneered, loosened his fingers, and fell from the ceiling, falling to the ground again silently. Before landing, he had repeatedly confirmed that there was no small object similar to a banana peel on the ground. After all, in his opinion, this little bastard is very cunning, and he also bullies his precious granddaughter, so he cannot be trusted. Click click click. Caca. Click click click. Suddenly, the two of them looked in the direction of the sound at the same time. Pangenji took out a bag of melon seeds from somewhere and was smacking them happily, spitting out the skin of the melon seeds all over the floor. Yilin. Amorendi. Yilin suddenly took out another card. Amorendi reacted, and in an instant, he moved backwards, almost sticking to the wall. The speed was terrifyingly fast. But what Amorendi didn't expect was that Yilin would crush the card on her own and integrate the little bits of light into Yilin's body. Dynamic vision up. Yilin silently gave herself a buff. Before taking action, Yilin confirmed again to prevent the bad old man from regretting it. We agreed, as long as I can hurt you, you will agree to a condition. Seeing that Yilin finally stopped throwing banana peels everywhere, Amorendi looked more relaxed. He just squinted his eyes slightly and said with a smile, "Humph, I won't go back on my promise." Then, it's settled. Suddenly, Yilin raised her fingertips, and in her fingertips, a thought needle that no one could see was condensed. Although being dragged out and beaten by Amorendi was unexpected. But this opportunity is rare, and Yilin actually knows very well that although Amorendi is very cruel, he probably won't kill him. Therefore, this is also an excellent opportunity to test your current strength. Amorendi is the strongest man besides the apostles. A terrifying existence standing on top of a human body. There are no fancy skills, no messy props, just one attribute and a pair of fists, a man who can crush everything. It is a rare opportunity to discuss with such an opponent. Not to mention. Hee. After Yilin gathered the needle, she stabbed it directly into her forehead without hesitation. This time, whether it was the needle position or the estimation of the deviation value, Yilin had calculated it very accurately, with almost no surprises. 30 seconds. The moment the needle was inserted into his brain, Yilin's hair lifted up slightly without any wind, and there was a faint aura about her body that even Amorendi found surprising. Oh! Amorendi chuckled and walked towards Yilin step by step. Still that weird pace. Sometimes fast and sometimes slow. But this time, Yilin's pupils shrank. Because in the state of dynamic vision up, Yilin could barely keep up with Amorendi's movements. Only then did he realize that Amorendi's seemingly simple actions actually had a profound meaning and were not as simple as they seemed on the surface. There are some subtle steps, and the muscles of the legs are vibrating rapidly at a speed that is difficult to detect with the naked eye. The steps are subtle, so there is the illusion that it seems to be moving forward at the beginning. Etc. Yilin suddenly frowned slightly. Why did Amorendi's pace make Yilin feel familiar inexplicably? When Yilin was confused, Amorendi had already taken action, and Yilin didn't dare to think any more. After all, he might really be maimed alive by Amorendi's enemy. Although Yilin could heal, it had to be said that it was really painful when Amorendi's fist hit someone. Moreover, in the mind acupuncture activation state, although it can greatly stimulate the body's potential and forcibly improve the body's quality, it is extremely taxing on the body. In this state, even running for 2 steps will be accompanied by the pain of muscle fiber tearing. If it were before, Yilin would not dare to play like this casually. But now, Yilin has the Dionysus factor enhancement. With the help of that terrifying self-healing ability, Yilin can try more of this mind needle activation state. Yilin turned her palms. An explosive bead appeared in his hand. By the way, let's try out the new skills. Call out. In the blink of an eye, Amorendi had crossed half of the room, gearing up and approaching Yilin. Yilin shot an explosive bead towards Amorendi. That's it? Amorendi originally dismissed the hidden weapon at all, but suddenly he remembered the weird banana peel and his face changed slightly. He was afraid that the bead was something weird again, so he casually took the explosive bead. Photographed. Boom. Suddenly, the explosive beads exploded. From Amorendi's palm, there was an explosion of force, accompanied by a fierce wind pressure, blowing all of Amorendi's hair to the back of his head. Amorendi didn't seem to expect that the bead, which was obviously metal, exploded strangely, and an unexpected expression appeared on his face. But after the explosion, there was no trace left on Amorendi's palm, except that all the sparse white hair that Amorendi had neatly combed was blown to the side. For Amorendi, the explosive beads of collision explosion can only have the power to mess up the hair. After Yilin threw an explosive bead, she faced Amorendi's enemy and instead of retreating, she advanced. After the explosive bead exploded, taking advantage of Amorendi's momentary absence, his speed strangely increased to a higher level, and he quickly rushed to Amorendi's side with ordinary steps. In the eyes of Amorendi, Yilin's movements were indeed nothing fancy. Although he was stunned for a while because of the explosion of beads, it was not important. No one could play tricks in front of Amorendi. Nobody. Amorendi's eyes narrowed, and he noticed Yilin's plan in an instant, so he clenched his fist, hesitated for a moment, and then relaxed it slightly to avoid accidentally beating Yilin to death. Punch. Really ordinary fist. Hiss. In mid-air. In front of Yilin's eyes, the shadows of countless fists suddenly appeared. It wasn't that Amorendi launched his ultimate move and hit the shadowless fist. But, in Yilin's field of vision, due to the gain of dynamic vision up, Amorendi's fist reached a certain speed, and unexpectedly produced trajectory prediction lines and countless predicted trajectories from Yilin's body. Passing through, at the critical moment, Yilin analyzed the trajectory of the fists. But no matter which trajectory it is, no matter what posture Yilin uses, she will eventually be hit by a fist. That punch may seem ordinary, but the trajectory prediction line has clearly told Yilin that there is no one to defeat her. This punch will block all his escape routes. Ah! But Yilin had no intention of avoiding it. After all, the current duration of the needle is too short, and it can only last for 30 seconds with one needle. It will also cause a series of sequelae such as muscle soreness and ligament tears. Boom! Amorendi's fist hit Yilin hard on the shoulder. Click click click. In an instant, Yilin's shoulders were visible to the naked eye, collapsing under Amorendi's fist. A hint of surprise flashed in Amorendi's eyes. This kid. You are so cruel to yourself. If he hadn't regained some strength later, Amorendi believed that his punch could break Yilin's shoulder, let alone a fracture. Tisk. Yilin gritted her teeth and looked in pain, but she was not pretending. Activation state plus dynamic vision up can indeed barely catch up with Amorendi's movements. Therefore, the subtle changes in Amorendi's expression when he punched were also noticed by Yilin. Suddenly, Yilin's painful expression suddenly changed and she looked behind Amorendi. Meng Meng? Why are you here? Let's go quickly. Acridine. Upon hearing this, Amorendi turned his head subconsciously, and his stern expression instantly turned into a smile as bright as a chrysanthemum in full bloom. My cute granddaughter, huh? Damn it! I was deceived by this little bastard. Amorendi turned around again. When he was about to give the little bastard who deceived him another punch to vent his anger. A well-timed fist will become bigger and bigger in the eyes of the enemy. Boom! In Amorendi's shocked eyes, Yilin's other fist actually exploded. Snapped. Right now. Pangenji was cracking melon seeds. He spat out a mouthful of melon seed peels happily. Then he hit the floor hard with the stick. Duin. KO. 1 minute later. Yiren lay lazily on the ground. Lie on your back. Ah. Feel good. It just hurts a little. Amorendi covered his left eye. You little bastard, you are cheating. Haha, have you ever heard that war never tires of deceit? Amorendi felt uncomfortable. He slowly let go of his hand, and his left eye had a big panda eye, which was extremely eye-catching. If Lao Zhao and others saw this scene, their eyes would definitely fall out of shock. The man who dared to climb Mount Everest with bare hands to have a picnic, was punched out of his panda eyes. So scary. Who dares to believe it? Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 178. In the end, Amorendi was willing to admit defeat. In fact, I don't say it. In fact, he secretly admired Yilin's fierceness. If you are hard on yourself, you can be even harder on others. Yilin was lying on the ground now, her right hand bloody and bloody. He stared at Yilin's right hand expressionlessly. The flesh and blood there were squirming, and a lot of flesh sprouts had strangely grown out, and they were healing rapidly. There was actually a slight clicking sound coming from the collapsed left shoulder. But overall, Yilin still looks miserable at the moment. Amorendi rubbed his left eye depressedly. Although the injury was minor. But that bruise is undoubtedly proof of injury. Can't quibble. Little bastard, your last bomb seems to have a slightly different power. Hee. Yilin smiled. No explanation. But he said secretly in his heart. Nonsense, that is a gift prepared for you in advance, and its power is naturally different. After recovering from his injuries, Yilin felt waves of fatigue coming from his body, and his eyelids drooped a bit. But he still sat up, ready to redeem his promise to Amorendi. Well, I'm willing to admit defeat and agree to one condition. Amorendi stood with his hands behind his back and had no intention of going back on his word. His masterly demeanor was clearly revealed. But suddenly, Amorendi seemed to have remembered something, opened his eyes, and added, if you dare to mention any conditions related to Meng Meng, I will definitely beat you to death without hesitation, before I talk. Dare to covet my sweet granddaughter? Don't want to live anymore? Of course, Yilin is not that boring either. He recalled Amorendi's strange way of moving, and said directly, what is the pace of your movement? Teach me. Oh, drink. Amorendi chuckled, you want to learn? Yilin asked back, you don't want to teach? Amorendi shook his head, with a strange expression on his face, actually, it's not that I don't teach you, but that you should already know it. That's just Lonjubu. Lonjubu. Yilin was stunned when he heard this. No wonder it looks familiar. But he didn't expect that Amorendi's fast and slow pace and weird movement were just a national fitness project. Lonja step? Amorendi smiled and said, the most advanced martial arts, with the simplest interpretation, is like killing anyone. While saying this, Amorendi slowly raised a fist, showing his domineering attitude. Just one punch. Amorendi finished speaking. He glanced at Yilin again and shook his head, everyone has their own way. Forgive me, your way is not here, so why force it? If you insist on practicing, the time and energy spent will be far beyond your imagination. Yilin understood it immediately. Amorendi obviously means. You don't have the qualifications to practice martial arts at all, why do you have to think so wildly? Never mind. Yilin really couldn't envy Amorendi's abilities, just like Amorendi couldn't envy the various skills and props among the apostles. This is the same reason. Since there was nothing to learn, Yilin didn't force it. But this bet, if you don't get some bonus, it seems to be a loss. Yilin lowered her head and thought about it. Amorendi shook his head. Seeing Yilin's hesitation, he didn't intend to stay here any longer. After all, he has panda eyes. If his sweet granddaughter saw him, wouldn't it damage his image of being tall and invincible in Molly's mind? This is unacceptable. Before Molly could see the panda eyes, Amorendi prepared to sneak away quietly and wait until the panda eyes were completely gone. Etc. Yilin suddenly raised his head. Smiling slightly, since you don't need to learn the wandering dragon step, do you have any techniques for throwing hidden weapons? Simple and easy to understand, suitable for both refined and popular tastes, quick to get started, easy to get started, the kind that can be learned in a few minutes. While talking, Yilin took out another explosive bead from the storage space. Of course, this is the state before using the skill to become an unstable explosive. Amorendi. Yilin finally remembered. What was that important thing that Yilin accidentally forgot about? Didn't you agree to draw my blood? When Yilin found Molly, she was happily tinkering with a metal shelf with a group of young female researchers in the laboratory. Upon hearing this, Molly recognized Yilin's voice behind her. Without raising her head, she just waved her hands impatiently. Go, go. Go on, don't you see that I am busy? I'll talk to you later. All the female researchers in the room couldn't help laughing when they saw this, and they laughed crisply at Yilin with weird smiles. By the way, the atmosphere in Molly's laboratory is extremely peaceful. For the sake of safety, every researcher working in the laboratory is screened by specific groups, regardless of personality, attributes, background, family, education, or even gender. Importantly, there are no men. This is indeed quite safe, for Amorendi. So during this period, Yilin walked around the laboratory from time to time and attracted a lot of strange looks. Huh? Exoskeleton armor. After Yilin was ruthlessly rejected by Molly, she finally noticed what Molly was playing with. However, the exoskeleton machine in front of me seems to be a bit bulkier than I thought. The mechanical skeleton is covered with metal parts. Thin lines extend from the limbs of the mechanical skeleton and other places, and finally converge on a helmet. The helmet does not seem to be a finished product. All the electronic components and circuits on the surface are exposed, exuding various colors of luster. Molly put on her helmet expressionlessly. Caca. On the helmet, a technological eye mask automatically sank, covering most of Molly's face. The other female researchers quickly became serious, operating quickly on the surrounding instruments and recording various data. Yilin saw that Molly was indeed busy, so she simply sat down and observed quietly. Molly's expression was serious, her little face was tense, and she seemed a little nervous. In fact, exoskeleton armor is not a very high-end and novel technology. However, Molly's show seems to have two minor innovations. 1. No one sits in the armor. 2. Helmet remote control. Yo-ho! In Yilin's eyes, he was watching the excitement with great interest, not taking it too seriously. Click, click, click. The exoskeleton armor suddenly stood up without a driver, with the sound of gears rubbing and a faint smell of lubricating oil. It's done. Molly clenched her fists, unable to hide her inner joy in her voice. Suddenly, the exoskeleton armor that had just stood up began to spin in place strangely. The original design of the armor tried to simulate human joint movements as much as possible. As we all know, normal human knee joints can only flex and extend forward and backward, but cannot swing left and right. The rotation of the exoskeleton armor directly caused the armor's knees to break, and the clicking sound stung everyone's ears. Immediately afterwards, the exoskeleton armor began to dance on the spot like crazy. Hiss. Caca. Pia. Under the strange gazes of everyone, the armor that was jumping on the spot finally fell to the ground silently, leaving only two metal arms twitching slightly. Yilin. Molly. Researchers. Armored remains. After a moment of silence, Molly reluctantly took off her helmet. It's just that she seemed to have expected this result, and there was not much disappointment in her expression. The 16th experiment failed. Please sort out the data first and send it to me later. Wait until the others gradually disperse. Yilin seized the opportunity, stepped forward and asked curiously, "What are you tossing?" Molly lowered her head while analyzing the curves on the screen, without raising her head, and responded casually, "I am combining the Xiao family's neural connection technology to try to decode the neural signals and reanalyze them into the most original binary code. Originally, I thought that as long as the binary code was reprogrammed into a program to control the armor, I should be able to form instructions to control the actions of the exoskeleton armor. I didn't expect this to be better than, huh." In the middle of her muttering, Molly's tone stagnated and she turned her head sharply. "Acridine? When did you come?" Yilin was speechless. "Didn't you just say something back to me? Turn around and forget?" However, Yilin still kindly reminded, "Just when the exoskeleton armor is dancing, with all due respect, I feel that your approach is a bit unworkable." When Aunt Molly heard this, she immediately became furious. She stood up and put her hands on her hips and shouted, You, what the hell do you know? Get out of here." Yilin didn't pay attention to Molly's outburst. After all, whether in the future or now, she seemed to be used to Molly's little temper. Instead, he thought seriously for a moment. "Can't we use AI assistance?" Molly rolled her eyes at Yilin. "Are you stupid? How is that different from today's technology? You don't know that today's wearable exoskeleton armors always use a large number of sensors to capture human body movements and transmit them to the central AI processing unit. Are you going to complete various complex mechanical movements again?" Yilin chuckled. "I mean, first use your brain to try to transmit signals to the AI without delay, and then use the AI's computing power to issue instructions to the machine. I don't think you want to use your brain to remotely control it." "Well, it's not professional either, just talking casually and casually." When Molly heard this, she was startled. "It makes sense? But how can the human brain be seamlessly connected to AI? Insert a chip into your forehead? Or is there a remote control module installed in the brain to transmit signals? No matter how you do it, it seems that you need to undergo human body modification to achieve it. Isn't this not good?" Yilin's casual words made Molly struggle between technology and ethics. Seeing Molly's frown, Yilin couldn't help but stretch out her fingers to help her spread the chrysanthemum-like wrinkles between her eyebrows. "Okay, don't think so much for now. Did you forget something very important?" "Don't make trouble." Molly didn't seem to notice anything wrong with Yilin's actions. She subconsciously slapped Yilin's hand away, and then was slightly stunned. "Huh? What's important? Didn't you agree to do a blood test for me? Oh, this is such a big deal. If you smoke now, how big of a deal can it be?" Molly waved her hands indifferently. Now, Yilin was a little unsure. "Didn't you say that it's accurate to do it on an empty stomach?" "Huh? Did I say that? You must have remembered it wrong." "Well, you must have remembered it wrong." As Molly spoke, her tone became more determined, as if she even believed it. "Boo-hoo-hoo. Boo-hoo-hoo. Boo-hoo-hoo." Molly buried her head in pain. Finally, looking at the increasingly full blood bag, Yilin's mouth twitched slightly, and she finally couldn't help but question, "Are you sure that much blood needs to be drawn for an examination?" Molly listened. After thinking about it, it seems to make sense. So the blood draw was stopped. But in order to be more confident, Molly still tried to make her expression calmer. "How could I predict how much I would need? Wouldn't it be better to have more spares? Okay, it looks like a lot, but to you, it shouldn't be much. What impact?" Suddenly, Molly seemed to remember something, raised her head and asked, "By the way, I almost forgot to ask you, did you say you felt something was wrong last time?" Yilin was speechless. But I didn't bother to argue with this ant. Anyway, as Molly said, this little blood loss was nothing to worry about. When I opened the panel, I saw that in just a moment, my health had returned to full value. In addition, before entering the other world, if the body is injured, the tower will be very considerate and ask whether it needs to consume death points to repair it. Now that Yilin has many death points, it does not matter. Thinking back on it, Yilin did not tell Molly about her situation in detail. Taking advantage of the fact that there were no outsiders around, Yilin took out the blood jasmine directly from the storage space without hiding anything. Before Molly had time to notice, after being possessed by the spirit, the style of blood jasmine changed slightly from when it was first created. But Yilin had already quickly slashed her arm under Molly's shocked gaze. "You." Molly just had time to say a word. She subconsciously thought that Yilin had been struck by northwest wind and actually mutilated himself in front of her. But the next second, near the knee wound, a lot of tentacle-like granulation tissue strangely emerged, squirming wildly. A few seconds later, the hideous wound opened by the knife was repaired as before, without leaving even a single scar. Molly stared and was speechless for a while. This time she didn't scream in surprise. It seems that since getting to know this soul, Molly has seen a lot of unscientific things. When surprise becomes the norm, she gradually gets used to it. Yilin silently put away the blood jasmine. Molly's strange eyes looked at Yilin from top to bottom, and then she slowly spoke with a bit of difficulty. "You. Why don't you just stop being a human being?" Molly nodded seriously. "To be honest, I'm not sure if you are still human." "Well, forget it, let's check first." She didn't know if she was complaining, or if she truly thought so. Molly ignored Yilin's speechless expression and directly took the hot blood drawn from Yilin's body and trotted happily towards a pile of instruments. While she was free, Yilin originally wanted to learn about Ling Yi's treatment progress. But thinking of Molly's expression when she drew her blood just now, Yilin decided it would be safer to ask later. Beep beep beep. All kinds of weird analytical instruments made sounds. Yilin was waiting quietly. Finally. After a while. Molly analyzed it repeatedly and finally consumed the bag of blood without any waste. Molly's expression was serious, and she moved her fingers quickly on the tablet, seemingly browsing all the analyzed data. To be honest, Yilin couldn't understand the messy formulas and data at all. It was only reasonable that professional matters should be left to professionals. When it comes to getting down to business, Molly is unequivocal. Whether it is routine blood analysis, component analysis, or gene fragment analysis, the results show, completely normal. Yilin frowned. Normal. Yes, Molly threw away the tablet helplessly. I am also surprised, and I think the results are very unscientific. According to the results, you should be considered a pure human being. What? You're surprised that I'm a human being? Yilin almost couldn't help but give Molly a shot. Disaster-ridden. But Yilin still held back. After all, it was impossible for him to use the Apostle's power on Molly, just thinking about it. Seeing Yilin lowering his head, as if he couldn't accept the fact that he was still a human being, he comforted her softly. Don't be discouraged, this is just my preliminary conclusion, but because of your special status, there is nothing I can do about it. Find a more professional genetic engineering expert to analyze your DNA. In other words, maybe you are no longer a human being, but my level is limited and I did not detect this result. Molly didn't notice Yilin's slightly ugly expression and continued to smile. Of course, I actually thought of another possibility. Explain. Well, I think we should believe in science. Assuming that there is nothing wrong with the analysis results of these instruments, Does it mean that my state when the blood was drawn and everything in your body fall into the category of normal humans? Molly's words. Let Yulin think deeply. Indeed. The Dionysian factor seems to be activated every time Yulin is injured. If you recall carefully, when the Dionysian factor is activated, it seems that a warm current flows from somewhere in the body, and that strange feeling flows in the blood. Yulin, it can even be clearly perceived. That's right, Molly suddenly showed a curious expression. You haven't told me yet, how did you end up in this inhuman state? Yulin didn't bother to correct Molly's speech. He thought for a while and finally came up with a very suitable description that would not trigger the prohibited matters. I was given an injection. Ah, this. When Molly heard this terrible description, she was slightly startled at first, and then she realized, could it be some kind of medicine that changes the human body? Yulin nodded. Or is it some kind of microorganism that is parasitic on the human body? Molly couldn't help but shudder slightly when she thought of this possibility. After all, this guess was a bit disgusting. Yulin heard the word parasite. Subconsciously, he touched the piece of dead skin that was tightly attached to his forehead. To be honest, when Yulin was doing the finger chopping experiment, she tried to cut off that piece of dead skin. But no matter what angle Yulin used to cut it, what was separated was an ordinary piece of human skin. After it was re-healed, the dead skin was still stuck to the forehead and could not be removed by picking it off. Anyway, Yulin had given up on trying to separate the dead skin. Just let it stick to it, it won't die anyway. At last. Molly also seemed to have given up on continuing to examine Yulin. After all, the results are already obvious. Yulin can barely be regarded as a human being for the time being. No matter how much blood is drawn and how many tests are performed, the results will probably be the same. But just to be on the safe side, Molly agreed and would tap from the side, ask some professionals for advice, or perhaps read relevant academic materials herself. Yulin was not surprised by this result. I can only talk about it next time. But overall, nothing unusual can be found for the time being, which is good news for Yulin. At least from a scientific perspective, there is nothing strange about Yulin's body. Whether it is unknown dead skin or the transformation of Bacchus factor, no special side effects have been found so far. Ignore it for now. 2 more days passed. It's early October. Unknowingly, I spent a lot of time in Molly's laboratory. In addition to taking care of normal physiological needs, Yulin spent all her time in that small room. Pangenji ran away without knowing where he was, and Yulin didn't bother to pay attention. It was rare to find peace. Anyway, Pangenji is not a child. This laboratory is so big, nothing major will happen. The castrated version of mind acupuncture. Unstable explosives. Hidden weapon techniques. Yulin constantly familiarizes herself with new skills and then turns them into her own strength. As the apostle level gets higher and higher, the level of the tower will also increase accordingly. In other words, the risks of the trials in the other world will also increase. No matter in the past, present, or future, the hierarchy of apostles will always be in a pyramid structure. The higher the level of apostle, the rarer the number. There are countless apostles who have fallen on the road to advancement. Yulin sat cross-legged on the ground. Just open the apostle panel and take a look. Daily exercise can no longer help Yulin improve her attributes quickly. As Morendi said, he is not suitable for the path of ancient martial arts. Without qualifications, he is destined to be unable to go very far on this path. The bottom of the apostle panel. I don't know when something changed. Yulin was silent for a moment and couldn't help but smile. When she closed the apostle panel, she couldn't help but let out a sigh, full of emotion. No one is worthy of being a rival, he is truly worthy of being a rival. If he can become an apostle with his initial attributes, maybe he really is unbeatable. Suddenly, Right now. There was a searing pain from the death mark on Yilin's chest. Still the familiar pain. It felt like a red-hot iron was burning on my chest. Yilin was covered in cold sweat, and after a few seconds, the pain disappeared. Finally come. Yilin smiled slightly. He stood up and walked silently down the long corridor. Followed like a shadow is turned on. No one noticed Yilin passing by. Even if he noticed it, he would just look at it in a hurry and not care at all. Yilin first came to Ling Yi's dedicated treatment room. Ling Yi is lying on the bed and undergoing treatment. Even if Yilin activated his skills, he knew that Ling Yi must know that he had been there. With Ling Yi's keen hearing, she must be able to hear her own breathing and heartbeat. Really? The corners of Ling Yi's mouth raised slightly. But soon. Somehow, she seemed to notice something, and there was a bit of worry in her shallow smile. Be safe. Good. Yilin turned and left. No need to say more, no need to ask more. After taking a look at Ling Yi, Yilin found Molly, who was busy in another room. Molly seemed to be really busy, whether she was busy researching technology that could use nerves to control machinery, or the large number of projects given by Yilin, which kept the entire laboratory busy. Thinking of this, Yilin couldn't help but feel a little guilty. But he still shamelessly asked Molly for some equipment that he had ordered long ago. Of course, it was inevitable to be scolded by Molly with staring eyes. Well, just get used to it. Quite missed. Yilin couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when she successfully put that piece of equipment into the storage space. It seems that this simple mechanical spring structure does not exceed the threshold of technological level limited by storage space. Yiren is alone. Lock yourself in a secret room. Safety. Yilin lowered his head and thought for 10 minutes. Make sure nothing is missing. Writing a suicide note or something. He. Non-existent. He will definitely come back alive, no matter what means are used. Then. Yilin raised her head again and smiled slightly. Enter the other world. Tower. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 179. Familiar scene, familiar taste. Yilin's whole body was wrapped in a dazzling white light. Feet in the void. Loading. It seems that there is nothing abnormal in the process of loading the trial scene. Yilin felt that she would never be so unlucky and encounter a weird situation like the one in Gotham again. I don't know how much time passed. The surrounding light made Yilin feel as if she couldn't feel the concept of time in an instant. Finally, the dazzling white light disappeared. The surroundings were completely dark. Dark. When Yilin came back to her senses, everything was dark. Immediately afterwards, a damp, musty smell hit his face, like the smell of some kind of food that has undergone dark fermentation. No, to be precise, it's not a sudden attack. Instead, this narrow space was filled with this unpleasant smell. Crash. Crash. Hizzy. In the darkness, there seems to be a creature called a rat ready to move. That crashing sound, seems to be the sound of ocean waves? Is he at sea? Yilin used the fastest speed to analyze the situation she found herself in after entering the trial. This is also a skill that every senior apostle must master. Only after making sure that the surrounding environment is safe can you make the next step. Yilin remembered that in a certain trial before, he was thrown onto the ancient battlefield at the beginning, and a knife struck him head-on. If she hadn't reacted quickly enough, Yilin might have set a record for the fastest time to finish the trial and receive a box lunch. The surroundings are safe for now. As for the smell, Yilin is no longer a novice. No matter how bad the smell is, Yilin will not panic at all. Unless you really can't help it. At the first moment, Yilin also let go of perception. This is a completely sealed room. He is currently locked in an iron cage. The cage space is very cramped, like a cage used to restrain wild animals and temporarily used to imprison people. In the room, there are no windows or doors. But at the top, there was a faint airflow, coming in from the gap. If Yilin guessed correctly, there should be a hidden exit above his head. Dungeon? No. At sea, I'm in a cell on a ship. Yilin moved her limbs. I found that my hands and feet were tied tightly with hemp ropes as thick as my thumbs, making it impossible to move. Yo. This kind of start. Yilin chuckled. In the darkness, although Yilin's hands and feet were restrained, it did not prevent him from opening the storage space and taking out the blood jasmine. With Yilin's current telekinesis strength, she can also lift blood jasmine. So this kind of start is not a big deal to Yilin. Hiss. After quickly cutting the ropes around her hands and feet, Yilin's bound limbs became free again. Yilin didn't know if she had been restrained for a long time, and the blood in her limbs was not flowing smoothly. The moment she was loosened, she felt waves of numbness in her hands and feet. Rested for a while. After the numbness in Yilin's hands and feet gradually dissipated, Yilin grasped the knife again and cut off the iron cage with all her strength. In an instant, a hole was opened that could accommodate Yilin's escape. After a little feeling, the material of the iron cage is not a special alloy, it is just ordinary iron. It feels very good when cut. If it were made of alloy like the one used by Xiaoyi before, even Yilin, who had mastered the killing technique, might have spent a little more effort. Yilin stood up. Duan. Yilin slowly typed a question mark. In the darkness. Yilin slowly took a step forward. Duan. Another step. Duan Duan. Yilin suddenly stopped and frowned. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong. After he put away the knife, he slowly stretched out his hand and touched the part of his body that was trembling strangely. He rubbed it a few times and found it unusually heavy. Not only were her hands heavy, but Yilin's mood suddenly became heavy as well. Yilin was silent for more than 10 seconds. To be on the safe side, Yilin groped up and down in the dark to check clearly. What the hell dash? After Yilin finished groping, she couldn't hold it back anymore and pointed at the top of her head and yelled. Boom! Suddenly, the cabin where Yilin was located shook violently. Immediately afterwards, the sound of messy footsteps and noisy voices came from the wooden board above. With this roar, the originally silent place above fell into chaos in a short period of time. Yilin's face was expressionless. Stop searching up and down. Role-playing mode? No. It looks like, it seems to be the story mode in the role-playing mode. Now there is some trouble. Yilin temporarily ignored the chaos coming from above her head and browsed the apostle panel as quickly as possible. After discovering that he was in an extremely painful situation during this trial in the other world, the experienced Yilin immediately opened the apostle panel. Attribute values, skills, have not changed. The storage space can also be opened normally. Yilin browsed quickly until he saw the enhancement column. When the Dionysian factor, incomplete, completely dimmed, I couldn't help but sigh. Really? In role-playing mode, the body Yilin is currently using is not his original body at all. The Dionysus factor is a physical enhancement. It is strengthened because of that injection and cannot be completely copied to the body that is currently being used. Ah no, it is so painful. That is to say, in this trial in the other world, Yilin was unable to use the self-healing ability derived from the Dionysus factor. Yilin touched his forehead. Really? The skin on my forehead was smooth, and there was a small, innocuous pimple. Even the piece of parasitic growth equipment grudge that was as familiar as the dead skin on his body was nowhere to be found. Boom boom boom. Above. There was a lot of artillery fire. Boom, boom, boom. Countless people stepped on the wooden boards, making bursts of messy and heavy footsteps. Yulin sent out his perception again. His current body is a bit smaller than his own body, after all, but it doesn't matter, the difference is not too outrageous. If Brother Su, who was originally 2 meters tall, was in this situation, it would probably take a lot of time just to get used to the different height difference. Yulin put this painful role-playing behind her for the time being. He is currently on a ship. It seems to be the identity of a prisoner. Then the ship was shelled inexplicably. The mission has not been released yet. It seems that the key plot point that triggers the mission has not been reached yet. Next. Should I take the initiative to run out? Or waiting where you are? Yulin carefully analyzed the pros and cons of both. This role-playing mode is a little different from Flight 444. There were only 5 people on Flight 444 except for one more undead. Even without using your brain, you can know that everyone is a preparatory apostle. But after Yulin simply distinguished the noisy and messy footsteps above, he discovered that the number of people on the ship he was currently on was definitely not that small. That is to say, in this trial in the other world, there are a lot of people. There is another benefit to role-playing: as long as you don't take action or talk nonsense, it's not easy to reveal the identity of the apostle. Just as Yulin was thinking silently, weighing the pros and cons of the next move. Boom boom boom. The hull of the ship was trembling, with violent shaking, accompanied by the sound of waves lapping against the hull, which seemed to drown everything. Hiss. Hoo hoo. Da da da. Above, there seemed to be strong winds blowing, and sharp raindrops fell on the wooden boards, making a continuous but dull sound of rainstorm. Just when Yulin hesitated, the wooden board above was suddenly lifted. Hoo hoo. The moment the board was lifted, a beam of light that was not dazzling came through a square hole. By the way, there was also the sound of howling wind and raindrops. Shit, damn it, sure enough, bringing a woman on board will bring bad luck. A man with tattered clothes and a strong smell of alcohol, blood all over his body was cursing and suddenly threw a rope ladder downwards. Yo! In the dark, Yulin silently turned on the shadow following function. It seems that the plot is progressing quite intensely, and Yulin does not intend to continue doing nothing. But Yulin also just made a decision. I plan to go out and check the situation first. No matter what kind of in-world trial it is, only by triggering the main mission first can you make the next step. Staying where you are may not necessarily mean you are truly safe. The smelly man put a metal scimitar into the scabbard at his waist and climbed down the rope ladder unsteadily. And as the hidden door above opened, the sounds from outside came in more clearly. Hurry! Hurry! Bring me the cannonballs! Phew! KKKK! Captain! We been hit on the deck. Full right rudder. Avoid the humming bombardment. Boom! Following the sound of gunfire and violent vibrations of the ship's hull, Yulin felt that her feet were suddenly pouring in one direction. Apparently, he didn't avoid it. Grass. The man who was climbing down the rope ladder shivered violently when he was frightened by the bombardment. As if he had sobered up a little, his movements became more jerky and he fell to the ground in the blink of an eye. Quite. The man let out a long belch, then groped in the dark towards the iron cage, and with his other hand he fumbled out a bunch of metal keys on his waist. Damn it! I told you earlier. Don't bring that troublesome woman on board. Don't listen to me. I've told you before that bringing a woman on board will bring bad luck. Let alone such a terrible woman. Terrible. He. Suddenly, the man sneered. His expression could not be seen clearly in the darkness, but his voice gradually became obscene and perverted. But having said that, that little girl's figure is as hot as her ancestors, anyway. If you want to die, you might as well strike first, and my life will not be in vain. After a while snapped. A small hand as white as jade gently patted the man's shoulder. Excuse me, what is this place? The man didn't look back. He fumbled for the key in the darkness and was about to open the iron cage in front of him. He subconsciously replied, "Damn it, don't make trouble. I have to hurry up while this little girl's skin is still warm. I am drunk? Is today's rum too strong? How? He. The corners of Yi Lin's mouth twitched slightly. The man turned his head suddenly. It seemed that he was not a wimp before he drank. The moment he realized something was wrong, he had already pulled out the scimitar from his waist. Unfortunately, it was a little late. Yi Lin had already frowned, passed by the other party, and cut a knife on his neck. In this way, you can prevent the other party's stinking blood from soiling your fragrant body. Damn it! What the hell is Xiang? Yi. The man clutched his neck tightly and slowly fell down as blood was lost rapidly and massively. Yi Lin frowned. It seemed that the man who had died just now was about to say something. Get chaos value add 42. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 180. I took a look at the score. Yi Lin licked her plump lips and couldn't help laughing. This chaos value has a head start. Yi Lin licked it a few times and soon realized that the taste was not right, so she immediately stopped this action that didn't seem right. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. Rainwater and blood mixed together and seeped through the gaps in the wooden boards. Gradually, a faint smell of blood appeared in the humid air. Next. Yi Lin held Blood Jasmine tightly and summoned Bai Xiaoai. Hey. Master, long time no see. The moment Bai Xiaoai appeared, he just wanted to behave like a good boy out of habit, but the tone of the last word was subconsciously raised to a very high pitch, and he typed a series of question marks. Yi Lin had already expected Bai Xiaoai's reaction after seeing her miserable appearance, and was not surprised. She pointed to her head expressionlessly, "Good boy, get up there and let me see what's going on. Also, if you dare to complain even a word, you will be a rich person from now on." Bai Xiaoai. In an instant, Bai Xiaoai had countless complaints in her heart, but she didn't know where to start. The corners of her mouth twitched twice. Although Yi Lin had turned into a look that made her jealous, there was no doubt that this tone and style was that of her hateful ghost hunter master. Bai Xiaoai's shoulders twitched slightly, as if he was having a hard time holding it in, but because of Yi Lin's threat, he did not dare to laugh in front of Yi Lin. Go quickly. Under Yi Lin's urging, Bai Xiaoai suddenly got out of the deck. In the gloomy sky, the dark clouds were filled with thunder and lightning, and the clouds seemed to be within reach. The ship Yi Lin was currently on was surrounded by a group of advanced warships. From time to time, artillery shells were bombarded in this direction, leaving the sailing ship full of holes. It seemed that the ship Yi Lin was on could not last long. The vast sea, surrounded by battleships. This start is a bit difficult. While Yi Lin used his vision to check the above situation, he also used telekinesis to check the character front and back, inside and out. Fortunately, this character didn't have any problems that made Yi Lin feel uncomfortable, and it was intact. For the sake of harmony, Yi Lin stopped checking. After thinking for a moment, she climbed up the rope ladder. According to Yi Lin's experience, there are always some pitfalls in the role-playing mode. At present, it seems that except for the Dionysus factor which cannot take effect, other skills and attributes are not affected. He just hoped that he would not forcibly add attributes such as weak water to this character like he was preparing for the apostle trial, and then everything else would be easy to talk about. When Yilin emerged from the deck, the heavy rain instantly soaked Yilin. Her wet clothes outlined uneven curves on her body. Yilin looked down and felt helpless. It seemed like it would take a lot of money. Only with time can I fully use this role to move freely. On deck. It was obvious that two parties were fighting hand to hand, and they were completely in chaos. In the heavy rain, not many people noticed that Yilin suddenly came out of the cabin, even when Yilin didn't turn on her shadow. Yilin also temporarily put away the blood jasmine. Before the situation became clear, Yilin decided not to reveal his identity as an apostle. After all, Yilin couldn't be sure that there were no other apostles on the same ship. There were corpses all around her feet, some completely intact and some incomplete. The corpses were lying scattered on the deck. Yilin picked up a bright iron scimitar and spread his senses to see if he could find an escape. The path out. One of the two fighting parties was wearing tatters, while the other was wearing red and white, extremely bright uniforms, and the weapons they were wielding were obviously much more sophisticated than the tattered side. Kill, kill, kill. Son of a bitch. Abandoned ship. Where's the captain? The captain just jumped overboard and ran away. Grass. Negotiation. According to the pirate code, we require negotiation dash. Call out. Before the Bad Fang who had just shouted about negotiation had finished speaking, his head was cut off in an instant and flew high into the air. Bah! Dirty pirates dare to ask for negotiations. Huh. Pirate code. Who still believes in this old-fashioned thing? Kill. Quick. Quick. Find the governor's fiancé. Yilin. The boat is not big. Yilin shuttled across the deck without deliberately turning on the shadow-following skill. After all, in this vast sea, one can hide for a while, but not for a lifetime. If the entire ship is sunk, Yilin will be of no use even if she hides at the bottom of the ship. Soon. During the chaotic battle, people from both sides noticed Yilin's presence. After all, among a group of men, Yilin's role presence is not weak. Moreover, it is very flexible and full of visual impact. It is impossible to run in place without being noticed. Ah! It's that damn woman. I told you that bringing a woman on board would bring bad luck. The other side. Hurry, hurry, hurry. She is the fiancée of the governor. Attention everyone. We have discovered the governor's fiancée. Everyone protects the safety of the governor's fiancée at all costs. The whole army attacks. Yilin. Think about it. In heavy rain. Yilin made a wise decision. He moistened his throat. Then Chi Luk Danshan, using the usual trick, shouted loudly, "Help!" 10 minutes later. The well-equipped troops finally killed everyone else on the ship like chopping melons and vegetables. A man wearing a white curly wig, gorgeous clothes, and a gold-encrusted sword hung from his waist, respectfully knelt down on one knee in front of Yilin. Ms. Elizabeth Lin, Viscount Nolando has frightened the distinguished lady. I hope Elizabeth, Ms. Rin, please forgive me for my mistake. Elizabeth, Rin. The abbreviation is, Urin. Yilin suddenly seemed to understand why she had put on such a weird vest. Yilin used the shortest time to extract information about this trial in the other world from Nolando. This is a sea area called the Caribbean Sea. In the Caribbean, there are complex forces. There are naval fleets from coastal countries, and there is also a certain kind of professional gang called pirates that rides on the sea. The name pirate, in Yilin's real world, is a historical remnant that is only mentioned in textbooks. Seeing Nolando's gritted expression when he mentioned pirates, Yilin could roughly guess what kind of status the pirates in the Caribbean belonged to. Army. Pirate. Caribbean Sea? Yilin was taking a shower while thinking about everything related to this trial. At present, the tower has not officially released an official statement, and everything can only be speculated. The main mission has not been released yet. Wash and brush. That is to say, I haven't yet reached a certain condition to trigger the main mission, or maybe, it requires an indefinite number of apostles, and the conditions must be met at the same time to trigger it. Rub, rub, rub. The most annoying thing about this plot mode that combines role-playing is that when I assume the role, I only have the identity of the role and no corresponding memory. In other words, if I don't play the role, if it's good, it will make others feel a strong sense of disobedience, and maybe something will happen. Yilin groaned comfortably and rinsed the bubbles from her body. Suddenly, Yilin found that something seemed wrong with herself. Is it because of the role? He always felt that his thinking patterns and certain behaviors were weird. Is it because of the side effects of being inserted into a female body? Yilin quickly calmed down and ended the bath. Haha, it seems that body hormones affect thinking to a certain extent. This is not unreasonable. Yilin smiled and shook his head helplessly. At this time, he looked down at the pile of clothes in the basket with extremely complicated ways of wearing them, and began to feel a headache again. It is estimated that for a long time to come, dressing will become a difficult problem that he must adapt to as soon as possible. None of them. The vast sea. On deck. Night. Sunny. Yilin walked onto the deck dressed in gorgeous women's clothing. No one knows what he went through to finally put on those damn clothes. Call. Yilin took a deep breath, feeling a little suffocated. Ms. Elizabethrin, it seems like there's a little time. Nolando looked at Yilin strangely. Although the hot beauty in front of him was the governor's fiancée, and he shouldn't ask more questions, the whole hour of bathing and changing clothes really made Nolando unable to understand what he had to do in order to waste his time. A full hour long. Yilin thought for a while. There is currently too little information about this character. In order to avoid revealing her secret, Yilin simply did not find any lame excuses and just smiled slightly. Your Excellency Nolando, I felt a little unwell, so I accidentally fell asleep in the bathtub. Nolando suddenly realized. I see. As a qualified gentleman, Nolando would not bother a lady by raising excessive questions, especially the fiancée of the governor. On the deck, a sumptuous lunch has been prepared. It has to be said that the style of the regular army is completely different from that of pirates. The exquisite silver tableware, the neatly spread tablecloth, the well-proportioned dishes, and the end of the chicken leg was neatly tied with a bow pattern with a ribbon. After a quick glance, Yilin sat down unceremoniously. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Yilin moved her index finger in an instant, and decisively tore off a fragrant chicken drumstick with sauce, put it into her mouth and started chewing. After taking a few bites, Yilin suddenly felt that this behavior might be inconsistent with the character's personality, so he explained, "Sorry, I was on a pirate ship and was hungry for too long." Nolando originally saw that the legendary Lady Elizabeth Lynn looked so fierce. He was stunned at the table for a long time and could not recover. After Yilin explained this, he suddenly remembered that this poor beauty spent time on a pirate ship. It was a tragic time, and I felt my deepest sympathy. Ah, thank God, God bless you, my lady. It's all those damn pirates. Yilin chuckled, well, damn pirates. Click click click. Chicken legs, so delicious.